Two frogs in trouble, that's the name of the tale, yeah. Big frog snoozed near the pond as the sun warmed the large hump of his back. What a great day for doing nothing, he thought to himself. Blip, 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 little frog took off for the pond, and Big Frog's eyes were wide open now. Plop, plop, ploppity plop, he followed little frog, and together they crossed the pond into the barnyard, playing leapfrog and hide and seek along the way. They were having so much fun, they forgot that it was milking day. Plop, plop, they jumped straight into a pail of fresh milk. The sides were slippery and the frogs couldn't get out, help, help. At least that's what Big Frog yelled. Hoping somehow to escape, the two frogs swam around in the milk pail. They swam for hours. Big Frog began to swim slower and slower. Finally he groaned, why should I keep on trying? We will just die in this pail. I'm just so tired, I can't swim any longer. Keep on, cheered the little frog as he splashed around the pail. You must have the courage or you're gonna drown, don't give up. And they went on together for a while. Soon Big Frog stopped swimming. Little friend, it's no use, I can't get out, I'm gonna quit. I'm going to quit trying. So we did. Now little frog was all alone. He said to himself, well, if I give up, I'll be dead, so I'm gonna keep swimming. 2 more hours passed. Little frog's legs could hardly move. I can't swim another stroke, he moaned. Then he thought about what happened to his homie Big Frog. With every speck of strength in him, little frog cried out, even if I die trying, I won't give up. Where there is life, there is hope. Bursting with courage, little frog felt a tingle and new life come into his legs. He raced around the milk pail, splash, splash, splash for a long time. That is the only sound he heard. But he began to hear a new sound. Was his reality being blurred? Glob, 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 the white waves had turned to the thickest cream. Now it was even harder for him to swim, but little frog kept on with all his might, full steam. All of a sudden, he felt something under him. He looked down and saw his feet were resting on a small hill. Little frog swimming had turned the milk to butter. With a great leap of joy, little frog jumped out of the pail. To freedom, to freedom. That night, he hopped happily through the tall grass. Little frog smiled up at the moon and thought to himself, now I know it's true. There is always hope. From now on, I'll never give up. Never ever give up. And little frog never did. That's the tale of 2 frogs in trouble. That's the end of the fable. Now I hope that you're able to tell me, what kind of frog are you?
Shoot. Oh, good. Oh, thank God.
We started this documentary over 10 years ago for so many reasons. I have witnessed a great disconnect in not just Western culture, but globally around touch and the power of our own healing technology. Throughout our education from childhood to adulthood, we have our primary growth and development. And by all logic, reason, and higher awareness, it would be pivotal for a species' evolution to know how their body works as it develops and comes into its first stages of maturity. I also saw a clear differentiation of many programs at work in the collective consciousness, disconnected from spirit. I was raised in these sciences in the West as I am a child of the baby boomer generation and was raised in the Kriya Yoga system of Paramahansa Yogananda, and as many know her, the hugging saint, Amachi. It was a fascinating paradox to be raised in the Eastern spiritual sciences in the Western culture before they were westernized into a trendy New Age spiritual movement. Learning to meditate was given to me as a tool from childhood. And although I was hypnotically drawn into the Western culture via the Tell You vision and all of its indoctrination, I always had these spiritual tools or teachings, these homeopathic remedies, and touch to connect with, to source. That was a turning point for me that led to uncovering this system to activate the body's inner physician or inner healer that will literally heal you. I have seen thousands of clients and patients over the last 20 years, and early on I saw that the most fascinating rebirthing process happens within each person as they release their trauma. Each uniquely different, as everyone's stress and trauma since birth is specific to them, as well as how they've experienced it over time and how they release it when they activate their mind-body paradigm. There were some very specific rebirths that were so transformational. They healed me and others witnessing in support. It was then that I knew showing this to the world was one of the most important things I was here on this planet to do, to release. Then we had a global shutdown of the world over a seasonal virus strain with a 99.99, you get the picture, survival rate. And the worst case scenario I had lectured about taking place for decades had come to manifestation and beyond what I ever could have imagined. Cut to over 2 years into a global pandemic lockdown based off the general ignorance and lack of non-indoctrinated institutionalized medical self-knowledge. The institutionalized Western medicine. Human beings are more fear-based and alienated to touch, to connection, and our humanity than I ever could have imagined. So I began the post-production lockdown process of reliving our magical journey through foreign lands, but familiar people. Sharing the power of healing as we follow some amazing individuals on their journey of healing thyself. And the power of what we're all holding from our past that must be released to heal and empower our present. I was shown when originally envisioning this powerful journey of bearing witness to a rebirthing process that it is those with the greatest challenges and ailments that are the most powerful to invoke one's own self-awareness to their healing process, calling from within. We're on the brink of a new age cosmologically, and that means a lot of change on the horizon. It seems we need to be finding that collective connection to our humanity now more than ever. All these magical people that you've seen have done that for us. And we believe by watching them that they'll do that for you too. as they embody such deeply connected aspects of our humanity that connects us all. So join us. We have quite a journey ahead, and we look forward to bringing you with us to bring more awareness about the power of release.
All right, Micah, you're now live. You're now live, Micah.
All right. Turn this down here. Got a little bit of an echo. Aloha, little frogs. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Let me put that backdrop up for the Q&A. There we go. Oh, that works too. That works perfect. Okay. I'm seeing the delay on it. Welcome. And thank you for joining us for our Q&A for release, for matrix body mechanics, for NMRT, for exploring the strama, the inner physician, and answering a lot of your questions. We have been joyfully overwhelmed with the response to the film, to the call to release, to the call to awaken your inner physician, and it's been powerful because I am a single father with 4 kids, and I'm just formulating a team right now. We didn't expect this this level of activation and awakening, and yet we did. You expect and you don't expect. You feel or you see visions. I was shown 20 years ago making this film would do this, and then for 20 years of holding the flame for that vision, you are questioning the vision. You are wondering why it hasn't happened, and so then when it does, you see that it truly is about timing and God's will for things to truly come into fruition in its time. And that's part of this process. Is we are ready. We have been put through a powerful rite of passage. It's what that song "Two Frogs in Trouble" is beautifully about, and I feel like it's a powerful story. It was the story of Paramahansa Yogananda. He used to tell this as a children's fable, but it has deep meaning to it. Which frog are you, the big frog or the little frog? The frog that doesn't give up, that doesn't lose hope, that pushes through, and earns that freedom. So we've taken freedom for granted, both in our bodies and in our society and culture. Everything is reflected. So the inner release has to happen. The inner freedom has to happen. We have been enslaved to our past chemically, to what's happened to us, to all of the versions of ourselves we've been before. So there is a powerful, holistic, and it's intricate, but it's simple at its base, and that's how holistic truth is. It can be deep, but at the most fundamental level of its metaphysics, of its principles, it's simple. And it resonates. And your body is designed to be stimulated and touched to release everything that you accumulate, just like your teeth being brushed. So there is a powerful way to excuse me, to do this to yourself, and to learn how to do this to another person. And it's again, even when you learn this, it's not really learning it, you're remembering something. So we are innately full of so much divine intelligence that just has to be activated. It's like having an activation code for a program on your computer. So as soon as you start playing with this and exploring it, it's what ends up starting to happen. So I know that through the process of this, there's been a international activation, and it's been beautiful. We are getting contacted from people all over the world that want to learn this, that want to bring it to their communities, to their people, and it's beautiful. And we have to keep the momentum going. That's part of what this Q&A is to continue the momentum and answer a lot of your questions, and want you to know that we are out here and we are organizing and building platforms to be able to bring this to you, and organizing our practitioners that are still practicing. And the practitioner page is officially, the base of it is live, and we're updating the profiles of everyone as they get their profiles to me and their information and where they're at. And we have our first apprenticeship level 1 training for new therapists officially set in September. We're working on confirming the dates in July. It's a very sacred space that has been over a decade in the seeding for us to do a program there. So the first time it is available, ironically, is the beginning of September. So we're going to do it on Christ's actual birthday, which was a very significant day in my path as a truth ambassador, as a explorer, as a discoverer of the hidden and what's been kept from us that I always knew, even as a kid, was there. And because after September 11th, there was the first sparking of alternative news networks online where stuff wasn't adding up, and so people were talking about it. And I got offered a show on Oracle Broadcasting. It was one of the first internet radio networks. We were actually second under Alex Jones in his original days when he wasn't, where he's at now. But anyways, just for the relevance of our circulation. And so I was kind of the esoteric show of the geopolitical network. And I did that for, I believe, 2 years, 3 hours every Sunday for 2 years, and then took a break. And after the pandemic, was offered a show again and came back on, and have been for the last couple of years now, doing a bunch of shows, and now doing a multi kind of media thing where we go through all of the intel and actual documents to look at, and also explore the spiritual sciences. So, but just so everyone's clear, the largest mass trauma event in humanity was 9/11. It was the most witnessed event by human beings in the collective, and it was a trauma-based event. And we have to decode the collective. It was done specifically because 9/11 is actually Christ's actual birthday. I don't know if you knew that. Very interesting. That's why they did it on that day, to create a traumatic event in the psyche of man for what was a very blessed and sacred day. So I was guided to do this program, to initiate the next beings that will help bring this into the collective on that day, the 11th of September to the 22nd. We're going to do that. So that's the first confirmed program. And then we're looking to do one in July, and a bunch of public programs in between. And I'm going to try to do a tour. It's really just going to, there's a lot of great events at play behind the scenes that are why I'm not already fully set in initiating this, everybody. So we're trying to come up with, the most cosmically connected, right? The most transpersonal timing and sensitivity to being able to bring this. And so right off the bat, we do have practitioners around the country, and some are looking to do international walkabouts and go to all over where the communities call us in. And so, yeah, we're going to get into all that. I just wanted to kind of lay some of the base template out that I know will cover some of the general inquiries that have been coming in. And then from there, I kind of want to let you guys guide our Q&A. Really, I want this to be guided by what you are feeling guided to know more about. And that could be more details about the homeopathic process, details about how treatment works, how self-treatment works, you name it. and also programs coming up. And like there's 13 spots for the September 11th program, and then there will potentially be a couple more depending on how we work it. It's in this beautiful Balinese Shangri-La on the most sacred land on the island of Kauai, which is where I cultivated the system. And so there's another sacred space we're looking at potentially for July, which may have more spots and availability. But the September program, I can just feel there's something fairly significant about this one. It's a very long time in the coming. So on that, I'm gonna check in because we have multiple chat rooms going, and I'm gonna check in with my dear sister Anne Marie, who has been so amazing in helping me to just try to field the response to release, and everyone answering the call. That I'm just so touched and honored, truly, because of how this work has changed my life in so many, and yet doesn't feel like we've been able to share it with a larger aspect of the collective. So that just feels kind of selfish almost. That's what this was about. And so that's why there is something powerful with just witnessing others release and it activating release. So I'm kind of, let's see. Awesome. Okay, I'm just checking some of these right now. So Starlight, acupuncture, creating distortions. Heard Mike talk about magnetic mud. Where do we get this from? Awesome. Okay, how do we offset distortions while performing acupuncture on patients? Awesome. Yes. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar with Premier Research Labs, Dr. Forbes and Dr. Marshall were an amazing, super powerful, ahead of their time couple. And one of our apprentices, an amazing brother, Sean Tanay, was their head apprentice at Premier, and we had connected. It was a powerful crossing. And I got to go deeply into Premier Research Labs and all of their magic. If you're not familiar, they were one of the next level supplement companies before all of the other supplement companies. I mean, for decades, the best royal jelly, the best, really, you name it. They had this stuff called Ozine. It was an ozonated gel. Oh my gosh, if you had a cut or an injury, anyways, highest quality stuff. Dr. Forbes was one of the top acupuncturists, and what they learned in the latest technology was that when you break the skin, the barrier of the skin, you create an interference field. It's a foreign object. And so, although putting needles into the nerves will neutralize inflammation, it was described as like a Band-Aid over the overall situation, which is really ultimately calling for an organic release of the neural inflammation and the detoxification of the tissue, which you can naturally do by going across and along it in the pattern of sacred geometry, which I actually created my own interference fields by getting it tattooed on my forearm, because it's a beautiful guide on how you can go across and along, and that your body's made up of this sacred geometry and at its most finite level. And so when you work within the sacred geometry, you can unlock the tissue, and it creates a homeopathic response that it starts its own wave of hundreds of processes, along with charging the electromagnetic field of the battery. So the planting in of the needles into the nerves are temporary in relief and can still be good, but they have to be followed with what they found worked really well to do the same thing, was this magnetic muds. And so they would pack the nerve points where the needles would be, and those would release the inflammation. And I'm talking not just inflammation. I saw some cases that Sean was talking to me about, where there was a woman, she was stabbed I don't know, 27, 28 times in her abdomen years prior by, I think, ex-husband, and all the scar tissue she had on her abdomen. And they call them Jesus mud packs, by the way, or at least Sean does. And they did a magnetic mud pack of her abdomen, and it decreased the scar tissue by, it was insane. It was like 30-40%, just one mud packing. So I will check in with our practitioner, Sean, and his information. He's going to be really excited to be able to connect with many of you and share in just a broad variety of just healing arts that he facilitates. Again, what a huge honor to be taken on as, head apprentice to Dr. Marshall and Dr. Forbes. Quite a unique Jedi. and gypsy brother of mine. We kind of hold a lot of the same Hungarian gypsy genetics, and so he has access to these mud packs. I know Premier Research Labs was carrying these magnetic muds. I believe they still are. So you can even go check Premier Research Labs and see. But I know Dr. Forbes was leading a movement for acupuncturists to start doing magnetic mud packs instead of doing the traditional acupuncture. Because again, all these systems and sciences, they're all designed to be refined and evolve because we are evolving as a species. So also, I mean, like I went deep into the acupuncture. I got, some of the deepest acupuncture. I've talked about it, where like full on the root point, actually with like an 8-inch needle through the perineum, through a muscle and a ligament barrier right up to the perineum. And I got that treatment a couple times from a Chinese practitioner who's the only person you should ever have perform something like this. Just to detox and drain the prostate. And because I was just super detox, many stages of awakening through the spiritual psychosis, and extreme obsessive detoxing is a big one. Not to say detoxing isn't significant, but detoxing stresses your body. And after a certain amount of detoxing, your system is smart enough to where it will, you've cleaned it. You don't have to keep hammering it with these detoxes, guys. Your body is designed to naturally detox itself. So, anyways, I hope that answered a question in regards to, because I had to have mud packs all for this root point that I had this, I believe it's called the Ren point, for to clear the scar tissue and the damage. Also, I had to have all my tattoos mud packed. Again, this is just being responsible. If you chose to get tattoos, go mud pack your tattoos. So we will, I'll post more on the mud packs. I've had a few people inquire about them, and I myself would like to get some of this stuff. So I hope that answered your question. I see a brother popping up on the screen. Nice to see you, brother. I just heard your track this morning.
Oh, word.
Positive vibes, keeping it fresh and positive. Got to bring positivity with the spoken word to the hip hop. I believe we're in dire need. It's even when you have hip hop artists just saying hip hop is just not what it used to be. It's all just jibble jabble, making words up, hugga, just make stuff. It's just fumbly. Like we're getting to such a place of babble. We're literally, just like the times of Babel on, even our language is just deteriorating with the youth. Everyone says weird phrases like savage and sick when I always say healthy. Oh, that's healthy, yo. Oh, that's so healthy, but we don't question it because our language is so coded and it's coded in our chemistry. So, I'm glad you're tuning in, bro. What can I answer of your question inquiries?
Man, I appreciate it. I really appreciated watching Release and just watching your work, just feeling the passion of you traveling around and tuning into yourself and your spirit. And it motivated me and resonated with me. So for one, I just want to give gratitude and thanks for you following your path of heart. And I guess my question is too, I've been watching a bit and I'm really intrigued with this as a massage therapist and as an LCSW to help others heal. And, being on Vipassana retreats, the idea that the body is the unconscious mind. And I'm just curious about your thoughts about the body being the unconscious mind and how we store that. And then also dovetailing that with the question of breath work, using breath work too in some of the work that you do to allow the participant to breathe in when you are actually working too. So it's a co-facilitated effort, or
100%. In fact, in the spirit of that, and you just brought me back to center. My intention was to actually create a container for our Q&A because we don't do this enough in our exchanges where we create a container to exchange information, and then that container holds the information in our exchange. And it just doesn't work the same if you don't do it. And the neatest thing with holistic truth is it's testable. Some of my greatest teachers would always say, everything's testable. You shouldn't do anything that doesn't produce results for you. So everything should be, God makes it testable. We're designed, that's part of the spiritual process of discerning things, is seeing if it produces results, testing things, being open to things. But, if they don't align with the holistic truth that's being embodied, that you've been encapsulating, that's where you get to see where they're fragmented. So in the spirit of that, we're going to tune in. Let's just do an ong. A-N-G, ong, okay? And we're all gonna we'll do 3 of these ongs. And in doing that, we're gonna sync our frequency together, and we're going to just create a harmonic that brings a resonant focus. And then I promise you, everything we go through is going to resonate deeper. So if everyone wants to just take a few breaths, because this is part of this is we're also syncing our breaths together. So we'll take 3 breaths. On the third one, we'll release our first ong, and we'll do 3 of them. So the first 2 breaths will just be grounding us in, sinking us in. And then we will go right into talking about the breath and sinking breath when you do this work as well. And the foundation of that, as well as consciousness directing the form, which is kind of the first thing that you touch base on. So here we go, everybody. We're going to inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. We're going to take this deeper breath to tune in. Here we go. Everyone inhale to tune in. Last one. Everyone, stay breathless. Don't breathe in yet. And when you breathe in, I want you to pull from your root, like you're holding from urinating. Pull it through the abdomen, pull your chest open, tuck your chin, the tongue to the roof of the mouth, roll your eyes to the third eye. Hope you're still breathless right now. I want you to imagine a column of light from earth to sky. See the energy come back through the roof like a toroidal field. Here we go. And inhale. Deep through the nose. Sip a little more through the mouth. Pull this whole chain of your whole body. Pull all the oxygen up. So we call that a breath pressurization. We usually do those after we do Kriyas, which is where we're going to be going into breath of fire, pranayama, or padabhati, different styles of holotropic breathing. And this is the Christed process. So this is how you make this machine transfer a piezoelectric charge from the root center up this hallway of doorways up to the top doorway, where we blast the energy out and direct it through our consciousness back into the root. We don't just blast it out. You got to direct that shit. You got to direct the energy. This is part of where humanity has to shift into a new age. Is we have to start conceptualizing even that we can use our mind to direct a non-physical thing that we are not able to see and feel as much yet. Doesn't mean it's not there. How do we get to what we can't see and feel? How can we reach the ethers if we don't conceptually have a deeper understanding that it's even there, and we're just not at a high enough place or sensitivity to fully interface with it? But you got to practice. And what put this into perspective for me was living with really powerful psychics who I got to like be around and see them interfacing on the highest interdimensional levels, and their accuracy was beyond what. And I just, so many layers we could talk about with a year I spent with this powerful being. Both, by the way, the most powerful psychics I around were both of Asian genetics, elder women. One was Japanese and Chinese, and the other one was Korean. Just another level of sight and seers. And that's actually, it was like, again, same with NMRT. It was monkey see, monkey do. It was being around people that had such a level of heightened sensitivity to the awareness of energies that I naturally started to like feel and see it more. It was the most impactful thing, just to be around those people and pay attention. So what I learned was your imagination is the foundation for your psychic ability, because imagination uses visualization, which is using your mind's eye, like me telling you to see a pair of green shoes. You see the shoes right now? Boom, everybody see them. Don't think about it. See, when you see them, boom, boom, boom. Don't think about it. What are they? What are they? Don't make something up that you wanted to filter. What kind of shoes are they, brother? You're muted. That's okay.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Micah? The lot.
Pair of green shoes. What
Yeah.
kind of shoes do you see? Don't think about it. What do you see? Boom. Nikes, right? Saw like green Nikes.
Yep.
Okay. See, I sent green tennis shoes, but I kind of went more the direction of like a Converse. But you saw the tennis shoe filtered to the Nike. That's what the mind does. It filters. Our mind filters. Like, these people can see without filtering. They just see what's there. That was like, oh, okay. Like, we use our imagination. We subjectively filter through our perception. They can see through the mind's eye, like we're looking at each other right now. And that was like, ooh, I want to do that. Like, okay, that's a skill. That is like, and it doesn't feel that far off. And she would say to me, you can do this. You just have to cultivate this more. So I would practice. Here's a really good thing, guys. This is a great alternative for you to all of the stupid apps that you can use with this thing. Okay. Use this thing for some of the cool stuff that it does. Okay. Like, did you know there's telepathy apps that there's really cool telepathy apps, guys, where you have all the cards and you have to try to pick the star, the square, the water, the circle. So me and my kids, we play on these. And you know what's weird about them? They make your brain hurt. They'll be really frustrating for you at first, because they're making you exercise something that you're not used to exercising. So they're like, it's almost like teeth grindy, uncomfortable, because you're exercising this counter side of your brain in the right hemisphere more by having to try to see these shapes. But you'll get into a flow. Like, my daughter, who was almost 2, and I were playing, I was showing her, look for the shape. And so we were both kind of going on off the turns, and we were up to like 78% at one point. I can't describe to you how high that is. But my daughter's, she's a super little psychic superhero. But this oracle I lived with, she'd be at 88, 89% on average on these.
Well, not to mention that us as children too, we're closer to creator, and we get programmed. And so our imagination, I always tell the kids I have dual citizenship, and they look at me like, what do you mean you have dual citizenship? And I said, well, I'm a citizen of this country and the imagination. Proclaim your citizenship.
That's true, because even the word to be a citizen is not actually what we are. That's actually, a citizen is, and a citizenship, right? Just like a certificate is part of this false paradigm orchestrated system that we've all really just signed into, we've acquiesced into. So the city, you're not actually, that's why they'll say, are you an American citizen? You're actually not. You're actually, and you are an American that lives in this country. You're not a citizen.
Seen.
But you'll concede and say that because it makes sense, and you've heard that phrase, and everyone goes, oh, right, I'm an American citizen. No, you're actually a free person in the United States.
In the United States.
Exactly. You are not an American citizen. You are a free person of the United States, of America. So there's some big things going on to reset us into place, and we have some very powerfully transformative and disclosure, I'll say, ridden because at some point, you watch, guys, it's going to get to the point where people are going to be like, yo, dog, what is being disclosed today? Like, I can't even handle anymore. Can we have like a 3 or 4 day break before more stuff is coming out of these? I think the first stuff will be the most shocking, but then after a week or two into it, people will just be like, yo, what more? There's more. So I'm seeing that they're going to time um some really powerful stuff, bringing God back through prosperity to the people with the quantum financial system that many of us in the Intel networks have been tracking. And I actually think it's the only way you're probably going to remedy the level of outrage for people once they realize what's happened and you know what they've been unfortunately deceived into. And um, there's no give backs, guys. That's the thing you learn with prophecy. Some choices, this is the biggest deception for us, is we were taught that this world, nothing really means anything here in what you do overall. Or that you're just gonna, you know, go into, you'll leave here and you go back into the higher realm and everything resets and this and that. I'm not saying that's not the case, but what I am telling you is, what if, because this has to be free will here, so everything does matter, what if you can come from the highest of high places to the divine, but through what your choices were here, you may not be returning directly to there. You might be going off into this other space that you have to work out the things and choices that you made, because this is a free will dimension, but there's a construct to it. There has to be, right? So it's kind of like free will. And here's the divine laws that you don't cross, because this actually has consequence, because it has to, or it wouldn't really be free and everything wouldn't really matter for why we're here. I mean, it would be like going into a school where you don't, you just pass at the end. Would you even really try to do well in your school and learn? There has to be an aspect of tests and grades to engage you to know that you got to pay attention, and that it does matter, that all this time and work and reports, and if you did do well in school or tried, all the learning, all the quizzes, all the studying was for something. Has to be, guys. Come on, realistic truth, you know? And if you look at the greatest Luciferian deception, it is that do as thou wilt. Nothing really matters. It doesn't really matter, guys. It's what the scientism pushes. You're just this tiny speck in this thing that's just vast. And I mean, gosh, I remember being a kid and feeling actually stressed about thinking about being this tiny speck in this vast thing that was so lost and insignificant. I mean, I couldn't have been the only child having this paradoxical like stress from the scientism being pushed to me that actually didn't really even feel intuitively correct. Maybe that was part of my despair. It was like, whoa, feels so wrong and off to what my intuition said. So, but again, yes, we get indoctrinated into the left brain and not into the right, which is intuition. It's actually more being in our intuitive and our receptive and feeling. And that's actually where, believe it or not, we can be chronically imbalanced, chronically dominant in our left or our right hemisphere. And both are not good. So I see part of the big psychosis is humans are also chronically imbalanced in their right brain, which means they're also emotionally driven through all their decisions. So it's like you can get distortions in either hemisphere of the brain. So it's not just about being more right and receptive. So having a balance. You actually, if you learn how the brain works, you can't access the higher templates of functioning, which would be in the frontal cortex, right? Higher neocortex. You can't even access it without accessing both hemispheres. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
You can't get to it just using one, and we know you can overuse one side or the other, but you can't get to the higher functioning unless you actually arc the hemispheres. That's what the arc of the covenant is. It's the arcing hemispheres of your brain, because you have to arc the electromagnetic charge. We've talked about this piezoelectric activation that comes when we do this pressurization we just did, you guys. And I started on the template of this anointing process. Well, the physiology is when you bring the electric charge all the way up and you tuck the chin, That's a flexion point. So there's a charge there. Tongue pressed through for the mouth. That's hitting the neural pathways to the pineal gland. Eyes rolled up. That's also stretching secondary neural pathways to the pineal gland. So we have two pineal hits right there. Eyes roll to the third eye, tucked, chin pressed, chest pulled open. All of this brings a piezoelectric charge with the prana up and activates two sacred secretions, which is known in the Bible as milk and the honey. The secretion from the pineal and the pituitary, which come together and collect in the base of your skull and drain down your spine. And this colostrum regenerates your cells every 11 months instead of every 7 years. Think about that. That's just literally the formula to live forever. That is, or live a longer lifespan to gain more knowledge, to break the samsara karmic wheel, living these unconscious, shorter lifespans, and to actually become spiritually awakened and evolve. So there are people that have learned to embody this Christed process. Remember, it was a title that Christ earned through doing this sacred anointing, this Christed process. And by the way, activating this awakens more of your brain to work. And I don't know if anyone knows the base mechanics of when you think, energy is released. If they've conceptualized and they've theorized, and this is even in science, that if you use, I think it's even 15, maybe even 10% of your brain capacity at one time, that you would be able to start manipulating energy into matter. And the way that you do that is that this thing has so much energy going in it and so much thought activation that the energy is putting so much energy out through it that the mind finds, and this is what's unique about it, each of us are our own person. Your consciousness is uniquely different than mine and uniquely creatively different than mine. So each of us, when we start this, will happen different for us. So you might start developing electromagnetic charges coming out of your fingers, or I might start seeing, everyone's going to be different how this develops. And once we all get super on board with how dope, just how amazing this is going to be as your psychic ability, and that each of us is kind of like a superhero thing. Everyone's going to have their activation of supernatural in their own unique way as they start unfolding this Christed process, which, by the way, is training all your cells have to work in unison to bring this charge up. So even when you did this pressurization with me, I bet you probably felt something, the pressurizing of the oxygen into the blood. It gives you this feeling of euphoria, activates endorphins. This is the pure high that's supposed to come, that we want from drugs, that actually we were supposed to be finding this high, because it's almost like God knew we needed an incentive to do this, because it takes a lot of work to activate this whole piezoelectric charge. You got to practice it. It gives you an amazing result, but that's what I'm saying. It gives you an amazing reward. So it's almost like Spirit was like, all right, I got to give them this magical thing to make them do this super activation from the most densest primal states, right, to the sattvic states. There's this reward that comes, and that is this profound euphoria and activation that keeps expanding. And then the rewards that stick are accelerated thinking, intellectual capacity, starting to see things before they happen, being shown visions, getting inner dialogue from the divine as you communicate more with the divine, because you start bringing more realistic awareness that the divine is literally like right up in your face. I'd say that's one of the most alienating things about actually seeing demons, entities, angels, that I can tell you in my time working with different psychic surgeons, is you have a very clear awareness that there is an entire world around you in the open space that seems open to you. And I'm talking beings standing right around you and stuff, guys. I mean, it's the weirdest feeling, because, you're kind of like, wait a second. You can't look back at the denser realm the same way once you get to see, and it's very rare. There's something I can tell you from both the spiritual, higher angelic of the light beings that are celestial beings, the non-physical entities that I've witnessed, and the darker demonic ones that I've been a part of some crazy powerful exorcisms and helped remove some people in one deliverance in my life. And is that they both operate from staying out of the view of all of us. It's like one of the rules of engagement here is, unless it's very specific, or it's there, that's why you're not seeing them more. That's why they don't show themselves. And also, our consciousness has been so densified. This is the other thing. We've been so chemically toxified, so genetically compromised and dumbed down, that we don't realize how much we actually should all see all of this more. And that's also been by design, because you can't know that there's something to protect yourself against if you don't even know that it's there. So, and that's another one that was kind of creepy after I really saw behind the curtain, and it started to implement a lot more protocols for me where you need to start using your will more. So, and we talked about this the other day on a show. Before you go to sleep at night, super simple will command spell. Okay, not even a spell, command, energy command. I close my auric field to all but my higher self or my Christ self. Boom, done. Okay. If you feel like it, say it 3 times, do things in threes. I close my auric field to my higher self. I close my auric field to all energies, external energies, but my higher self. I close my auric field to all but my higher self or my Christ self. And then watch how different you sleep. You don't do that, you don't use your will because you don't have the awareness, then your energy field's open. It's honestly, it's the same thing with sexuality. When you're interacting in sexual energy, you can close your field from life coming through for this one instance if you want. Or if you don't, then it leaves it up to nature. And, you know, this is, and also we're so unconscious around sexuality. It's, men have no control of their life essence. They don't really know how. And then you have counter deceptive, new age bullshit, false psychology stuff, theosophies, theosophical BS, which much of it is rooted in the occult Luciferians. Honestly, if you look back through even the origin of theosophy, guys, was like a jumbling of more ancient stuff into like a more manipulated new age format. But one of these things, this misconception about holding your seed, men, don't do this. Do you know what it takes to learn how to actually move that fluid through your glands? It takes a decade plus of the yogic practices of internal muscular cultivation to your core muscles, your pelvic floor, all of it. Do you know what's happening if you do that, guys? You are jamming up your fluids because you don't know how to pull the fluid properly. You might think you can hold it, but you don't know how to move it up and circulate it through your body. That takes years of skill to do. That's why those guys only do that. And even those guys understand. And I want you to see, here's how simple the deception can be. Okay. Look at how material we are. Look how manipulated we are. Okay. We're so material. We're so about what matters. Let's look at the holistic truth. Women have 3 orgasms they can have: vaginal, clitoral, cervical. The cervical one, the deepest one, the most powerful one, the spiritual, activating, healing one that actually rejuvenates the body, which is the only one that they should ever settle for, takes at least 30 minutes. Okay. That means for the masculine, we have to hold our energy, our chi, for at least 30 minutes. Okay. Do you know what happens when you hold your chi for 30 minutes? It absorbs in your field. So all that's left is that fluid, not the life force. See, the life force was contained in the field and absorbed by the individuals. It takes skill to be able to hold that chi force and absorb it. Even you hold it past 30 minutes, awesome. You're just absorbing more chi. The point is, all that you're releasing, which is allowing your glands to move, is the fluid, which I suggest that you consume or rub in your skin or hair. It's got every trace mineral in it. It's got all of the mineral salts, everything that you need. It could create a civilization. It's the most powerful nutritional source on the planet. Also, it's also a spiritual medicine against negativity. If you've been attacked by somebody, entity, whatever, your spiritual essence is one of the most powerful things that can cleanse your body of stuff when you consume it, just so you know. But my point is, it's just fluid. It's not the energy life force. That life force gets contained when you can hold the field. See, but what's the new age manipulation? Everyone should hold their seed. Oh, you're gonna lose your life force. No, that's not it. You're skipping some details there. And those details are extremely destructive for men to go off thinking, I'm not conscious unless I hold my seed and don't really know. No, you have to hold your chi energy, and you have to be a more grounded and trained and disciplined lover. See, it's This is where deception comes in. It's like, okay, how about this? Milk is a deadly poison. It just is on every scientific level, guys. Okay. It leaches the calcium from your bones. It makes your body extremely acidic. Why? Because it's pasteurized. It's dead. It's a dead animal protein. It's just super acidic, makes your body super acidic. And most of us can't digest it. Raw milk is medicine. Raw milk is completely bioavailable and you digest it totally. Okay. Because it has lactase, which break the lactose down. And it's a living protein. It regenerates brain tissue. They've actually have cases of autistic children coming back from stages of autism because of raw milk. And I know because one of my dairy farmers did it for his child who was autistic. Boom. Show me your statistics and studies outside of that, vegans. I'm just saying. Because here's the thing. Milk is a deadly poison. You're right. It is. And they've made all of the milk in the world a deadly poison. And that's why they've made raw milk, what is it, illegal in pretty much 48 states or something like that. So pay attention to those kinds of things. Here's another one that's really funny. Tobacco. You know, there's not one case of actual lung cancer from tobacco specifically. I'm totally serious. I'm not talking about throat cancer. I'm talking about lung cancer. And I'm also not talking about that you could abuse anything. But if you look up the history of tobacco, tobacco was an expectorant. You would actually, if you had a cold, you would smoke tobacco and it would cause you to cough up all this crap. So now from 1930 to 1963, the governments of the world detonated nuclear bombs all over the atmosphere. Okay. I always thought it was the stupidest thing to do. And what were we just firing off to see what it would do to blow this stuff up? No, actually, it was part of something called Operation Fishbowl, which followed Operation High Jump. So once you really start seeing, they were trying to blast through this firmament dome, that is this electron field that they couldn't get outside of. And after they realized they couldn't, they outlawed it in 1963. Do you know what that did? That sent 117 billion tons of radioactive plutonium all around our atmosphere, everywhere, spread into the dirt and the trees and everywhere. And by the way, it was the dust cloud of the particles that are the worst that spread everywhere. But you know that it's all because it all becomes radiated particles. So they landed everywhere. And you know what happens? Interesting. After 1938, 1940, when they started doing this, lung cancer just popped up everywhere. It was the darndest thing. You know, people smoked tobacco for hundreds of years and there wasn't lung disease or lung cancer. Okay. And they were smoking like unfiltered raw. I mean, this is, you know, hundreds of years, guys. Remember, Rodrigo de Jerez discovered the tobacco in the native cultures. They never had any lung, anything with it, brought it back with Christopher Columbus, was jailed like through oppression for smoking it in the streets initially. Okay. That was one of the first prohibitions because it was a medicine. So they needed to cover their butts because they just radiated the whole world, which they're eugenicists, so they want to do that anyway. So what was the only other thing people were smoking at the time? Tobacco. It became the perfect quasi-medical diverted focus. This is a whole thing. Nobody talks about this conspiracy. And it is so deeply indoctrinated to you that you don't like the smell of tobacco because you've been indoctrinated that it's poisonous. Garen F and T. Now, I'm not saying that all the tobacco companies don't put all their radioactive, you know, their crap in it and stuff like that. It's true. Honestly, regular tobacco, if I smell it burning, it does make me kind of sick. It does. And it's those chemicals, but I'm more sensitive to chemicals. But regular tobacco, nope, it's just like sage for me or anything else. Now, it didn't used to be, but I had to break that indoctrination, just like uropathy, drinking your urine, all of it. We are so deeply matrixed without realizing it in us, in our belief systems, and what we're attached to, what we think is real. So, by the way, here's something very interesting. A bunch of scientists, none of it was adding up with the tobacco research. And so they did all of these studies and they tested over 60,000 rats over 6 decades, guys. Not one rat got lung cancer from tobacco. And they were using Marlboro Reds as a base test. Okay. Not only that, they tried to publish this in front of Congress, this and that got squashed under the rug because it was going against the narrative. And it would be exposing that all the world's governments poisoned all of us with this radioactive BS from 1930 to 1963. Okay. So remember, they're trying to cover their asses on this, right? So some other scientists, I guess they were getting really frustrated because they took radioactive plutonium tested rats because they noticed any rat exposed to radioactive plutonium gets lung cancer in a week. Just so you know, that's the science. Go look it up. Okay. So they took a batch of the tobacco rats, and they put it in the radioactive plutonium testing. And where every rat got lung cancer in a week, 60% of them lived. Literally, the tobacco acted as a protector against the radioactive plutonium. So not only did they use the tobacco as a quasi-medical diversion, but they also did it because they probably already studied and saw that the tobacco is actually protecting us from what they did in poisoning our environment. And here's where it gets really weird and trippy. Secondhand smoke, which all of us have been so deeply imprinted to be so deeply offended by, it works the same with tobacco. If someone's burning it around you, it will create that homeopathic mucus layer to protect you from breathing radioactive plutonium. So are we in that upside down of a world that you actually have to smoke tobacco to protect your lungs from the very air we breathe that's full of radioactive plutonium? It's been interesting, but I'm just trying to give context to the level of deception that comes about. So I hope I answered some of your questions, and at the same time, brother, I just want to say on the breath tip, okay, and everyone can do this. I want to give you guys all this before we move on to another question. When you're a little kid and you're upset, what do? You go like this, right? What is that? It's double ventilated breathing. You're breathing through your nose and your mouth twice in, and you're exhaling through the mouth out. Here, I'll do it as you know, so you can see how when we're upset, right? So this is a breath that I couldn't, when I broke my heel, I couldn't even touch it. And I needed to treat it immediately to start getting the bone to fuse and not scar. So when I did this breath, I could dig into a bone I could barely caress with my fingers. If you're in pain, if you're doing ice breathing, if you're working out, if someone is in a session where they're having pain, have them do this breath. It's amazing. It makes them focus on the tempo. It double ventilates oxygen. So it starts giving them endorphins and creating this beautiful euphoria for them to relax into. And it can be short and shallow, which sometimes it will be if something's more intense. Or it can be long and drawn out. Okay, so you've seen a more generic form that Wim Hof does, inhaling through the mouth, exhaling through the mouth. That's cool, but look at what you're doing. You're breathing through the mouth, which has no filter. The nose has a filter. When you breathe air through your mouth, you're breathing all the free radical garbage right into the lower lungs and the digestive cavity. So this has a filter. So you want to always breathe through this. This is, especially in the air and the garbage today that we're in, this is your filter. It actually, I don't know if you knew this, there's over 28 functions the nose has besides just breathing air in. One of the coolest ones is there's a tiny discharge of nitrous oxide gas when you inhale through your nose, which actually sanitizes the air. So interesting. It also makes sense when we do these deep pulls through our nose. And we do that pressurization, we're getting a little blast of nitrous as well that goes into the oxygen flooding in the brain and gives, it's part of that euphoria that comes to pass. So, but when you breathe through your nose, through your throat, which we call the Ujjayi breath, that regulates the breathing and makes everything slower, because most of the time, all of us are either mouth breathers, which you've probably heard the term. And so that's erratic breathing through the mouth. Most of us do this very shallow. We don't even pay attention to it. We're so unconscious with our breath. Or we breathe through our nose like that because it's shallow. Now listen when I breathe through my nose through my throat. It makes you elongate the breath. So see, I can't breathe erratically. I can't pull on it erratically. Listen, it's way harder to pull deeper through the nose, through the throat. So that's one of my little droplets into, yes, the consciousness does direct the form, and the breath is the interface between the physical form and the consciousness. So the breath has to be the conduit, but always we think too much of what matters. Always consciousness directs the form. Always consciousness directs the form. So it's the same with the loosh harvesting that we were actually designed to do. Just like they harvest energy off us, we were designed to harvest energy off vegetables and food and things like that. Okay. And again, to me, my experience only, and I was a vegan fascist. I own a living foods company. I have a living foods vegan cookbook that is being published this year. So I am the antithesis to the vegan psychosis. Please bring your knowledge and let's go toe to toe. Because I guarantee you I have more knowledge of vegan living foods than you do. And I've also had the most humbling fall to the deception. that was malnourishing me, ultimately killing me because I didn't understand how this realm works. I thought about what matters. I thought that animals only matter when they're alive. I didn't think about their spirit. I didn't think that the soul of a less complex organism could merge with me, and it would be part of a reincarnation process for their ascension to be a part of a higher organism with greater purpose in the bigger scheme of the spiritual realm. Like, now, all the indigenous tribes knew this. They would eat the spirit of the animal. They would welcome it through intention. They would invite the essence to come in. It was a great honor for this organism to come in, to be a part of a greater purpose, to protect a village, or to fight against tyranny or evil in some way. And so here's the messed up thing about this world and how deceived we've been. If you eat the life of organisms, plants or animals, and you don't, with intention, thank and receive this thing, there's no transference of energy. That soul reincarnates down into the same thing. I want you to think about how many unconscious meat-eating people are eating animals that are being horrifically slaughtered in industrialized farming. And they've been desensitized to think, but look at the words, a fillet, a steak. We don't even refer to it as a living thing anymore. We have these generic words for it. So we don't see the exchange of it. And so there's no intention, there's no reverence, so there's no connection of the spirit. So then it is just trapped in a cycle of reincarnating and suffering. But isn't it interesting that the more conscious tribes, the more conscious beings, the closest you'd see to connecting with God and spirit and be in harmony with it, they were aware that there was a sacred relationship where the spirit of this animal that sustained and fed their family, when we didn't have a recreational society where you could come up with whatever narcissistic, neurotic diet you wanted to. You were grateful for what God willed for you to be able to eat that day. And friends, I want to tell you, we're going back there. So get ready. It's going to be a beautiful purification for all of us and all our mentally diety things, because you are going to have such a pure relationship with what you eat. So enjoy what you can eat right now. Make the process sacred now, because it's going to get really, really sacred. Prove me wrong. I've studied the collapse of this food industry for the last year. They've been doing it. It's planned, but it's also part of a more divine plan with so much ancient prophecy that has reflected so much that's now correlated. People have put timelines together because it was always God showing his children to be prepared and know that all these crazy tests were going to come, because this life does really matter, and what you do here does really matter, or what you didn't do here. So our vessel, and preparing our vessel, our temple space, through getting all this mucky, unoriginal indoctrination out of our tissue. It's not just in here, it's in our tissue. That's why it's so grimy and disorienting. Just kind of checking in. I know I get on little flows, and I know we have some more questions, but this is important. It's all important because it's all part of the deception that's been collectively put in. And at this point, you should be just kind of clipping off little pieces of mosaic tiles of deception in the matrix to see the bigger picture behind it. And I can tell you the picture is beautiful if you're willing to look at it. So how's it, brother? Nice to see you on screen. Love to to have you share or reflect if you wanted to add something in or have an inquiry. My start. Oh, it's starting to not match. Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I'm down here in Texas, and I guess my question was, I woke up around 2008, and then they sort of put me back to sleep by diagnosing me as bipolar, and then they medicated me out the wazoo, and then I got them to drop the medications in 2018, and then my Kundalini went active, and I had no idea what was going on, and it sort of caused both a trauma, and it also sort of liberated me. But then they put me back in the hospital, and now more meds. And then luckily I put my foot down about 2 or 3 years ago, and got a new psychiatrist who knows what the Kundalini is, which was a rare find. I had to go through someone who wrote their PhD on the Kundalini to find this person in Houston. And then what basically happened is my medications are coming down now, but I'd also like to take part in one of your trainings. I'm Reiki 3 certified. I also studied for a time under a shaman, and I have a certain background for it. But would any of these medications be able to come off after the treatment more easily?
Yes.
Or could I still undergo the training even if I couldn't get all the medications off before the treatment or the training itself?
Well, let's talk idealistically. If we could have you fully detoxed so that you can just be like fully clear to go deeper into see, if you do the practitioner trainings, just for everybody, here's one of the most beautiful things about it is you get a ton of neuromuscular release therapy throughout the training. I mean, you talk about getting just like fully like open can of worms, like, because the first 3 days we're going through the self-treatment system, which is the public program we're going to be doing. And that could be an epic program for you. I really am feeling called to do one in Austin, and have a lot of tribe over there. It's a 3-day thing. It's like 3 to 4 hours a day. You show up, we go head to toe through this whole way you do this system to yourself. Now, we have videos that you can be practicing just the principles and techniques on yourself and creating neurochemical release, and also finding areas of pharmaceutical depository in your tissue, which is what happens.
Okay.
So think about it like this. Like, the first series we do is about detoxifying and disarming disarming the neurochemical defensive armor that we hold, and detoxifying the chemicals that are saturated in us that have just been for decades. And the first time we do it is the big flush. We call it the drain. And the drain is after we go through the series, the next 3, 4, or 5 days, you're draining. You're draining memories, you're draining weird emotions, you're draining pharmaceuticals, you're draining smells. You know what I mean? And just the body is draining it out. And what's interesting is now the core series work is a little bit different, and I'll explain how. It's more detailed because we couldn't get through the sweep that we take your body, your nervous system through is very general in the spring cleaning, because it has to be, because and if someone has more tolerance, we'll go in more detail with that person, but it's very rare. The first spring cleaning is a very basic core hardline sweep. And in the core, and it's also based on what we call asymmetry. And this is one of the fun things about the series is we go one side at a time. This is how I do demos and lectures. When I do lectures, I'll bring somebody up and we'll do one of their arms and have them compare it to the other one, because your arms are your interactive tool in the world. So they're very, and differentiation is very powerful in seeing change, right? And building morale that you can be changed, that your body can change how it works. And it's so beautiful in people in wheelchairs or people that just have tried so many things and they've kind of given up, and we'll do one of their arms and it just totally is different, and they just light up like, like a little kid, really, just like the innocence comes back, like, oh my gosh. So we do that in the spring cleaning, one side at a time. We go asymmetrically through the whole body. One eye we have you follow my finger, and one of your eyes is moving really well and the other one's kind of jerking around, and you didn't even notice it until we made this one feel better. And you couldn't even notice that was going on. So that's kind of the beautiful thing with the spring cleaning is a full, it's really, you're taking someone like a tour through their body to expose how something is just not working good or has so much pain and inflammation in it. And then as we clear one side compared to the other, it feels so magical. It feels like nothing. It just wants to float. And so that's what motivates you through some of the tougher sequences, because you're seeing the results as we go one side at a time through every part of your body. We're going through this inventory, basically. So just for people, for perspective, this is not a massage. That's why if you do an intro session to NMRT, which is about an hour and a half with a practitioner that you might find, it's never going to be the same as a series. Because think about it. It's 4 to 5 hours to get through hundreds of muscles in your body. In an hour and a half, we could only get through what we really could get through, which is going to be clear the primary junctions of the nerves, and we'll focus on a couple areas. That's about the best we could try to fit in for an hour and a half. Now, when you go through a full series, the goal is completion. The goal is uniformity. It is to clear every aspect of the system itself. So the core work becomes easier because now your body knows the work. It's not as toxified. It's been disarmed, and we can start going into a lot more of the structural advanced changes in the body, which is the most magical part. In fact, lots of patients talk about that they didn't really feel like they got to experience neuromuscular release therapy until the core, because the spring cleanings, there's just got too much inflammation and crap in there. And so sometimes this work will get projected upon that it's so intense. Let me explain something to you. The work doesn't change from spring cleaning to core. We're still doing the neuromuscular techniques. In fact, we're doing them deeper in the core, but it feels less because you're full of less shit, stress, whatever you want to call it. So the term full of shit is you're full of shit. If you think that this work is intense because you experienced it in a state of intensity and you can't differentiate that, wait a second, I'm intense. That's why anything's going to be intense. And that's what we see for those that commit to their healing is they get into the core and it's a beautiful revelation. Oh my gosh, this work is, are you pressing as hard? And I'll be like, I'm going deeper. And they'll be like, what? And then they get to see, whoa, look at how much stuff came out of me. Like, whoa, oh my gosh, this work is not as intense as I thought it. That was because I was in this intense state. And it's beautiful to see people follow the steps towards their healing and get all of these beautiful rewards and revelations along the way. And everyone else fits into a category of what my mom referred to as the blame game. They either don't want to take accountability for the trauma and pain that's in their body, so they want to make it about the practitioner, or this work is too intense, this and that. But here's the thing: this is why your argument doesn't it doesn't stick for any of us who've taken the journey, is because it was like that for us too, but we faced it and got through it, and now it feels really good because we got out the inflammation and the pain. So it felt like how you're recognizing, and yes, we all saw, yes, this is intense. But from the moment I had this work done, I knew this was my stuff. In fact, the man that taught me the base principles, that was very unrefined, and he just wasn't really wanting to do anything with it. He was Ida Rolf's second student before she started his school. And he saw everything that Rolfing and other forms of structural integration did not tend to, primarily being the nerves being the intelligence facilitation of the body. And so he formulated this kind of neural electrical tracing system that was very, we'll just say, medieval. It was, if you think my work's intense, whoa, this guy's fingers would hook at the tips like forceps, and he would just, there was no, like, I developed NMRT as a way to make this easier for other people because he didn't really have a warm-up system to prep the tissue to go in and reset the nerves. He just would go in and do it. And it would be more intense, but it would also produce the same magical result, which completely transformed my ACL. And, I didn't have to get surgery. And so, again, produced results. You should only do things that produce results. And I also saw that I knew right away that all this pain and how hard it was for me to receive what he was doing was all me. It had nothing to do with what he was doing, because I knew just from coming up in the Eastern yogic sciences, my body should be in a better condition to really handle this. And that was also me learning as a child, even from the Eastern sciences, that no, your body, when it's healthier, it has a higher ability to receive stimulation. If your body's sensitive, it's because you're hoarding and holding stuff, or no one's shown you how to flush and release it. And even though my parents didn't fully stay committed to the Eastern sciences, after having kids, it was just a lot. It's the biggest test for you as a yogic practitioner to have children and a family. In fact, what's funny is, even in the Eastern cultures in India, it's kind of like the yogic science has even been stepped up. Like, it used to be that you'd go train as a yogi and go off into caves and this and that. The latest skill set, even in India, is, can you have your yogic practice and have a family? Because it's tough. It's like the next level if you can do that. You know what I mean? And it's been a journey for me. I mean, 4 kids. Whoa. Like, if anything's going to test my practice, but my practice has also kept me alive through 4 children. It's like charging my energy field, staying up through the night with my daughter, having to, give her bottles through the night for the last 2 years alone has been a lot. I don't even know how I made this film, guys. Honestly, at release, I don't even have a clue how I made this film. On top of it. That's why it was divine and if you want to know, I actually finished this film and deleted the entire thing by accident and had to remake the entire film all over again. So this is actually, I've made this film twice. And yeah, it was the lowest point creatively for me, and God was just like, you have to get up and do this. And so, by the grace of God and God's will was
Definitely.
yeah. So I've seen bipolar schizophrenics who ultimately hang on a sec. I've had schizophrenics, bipolar schizophrenics who wanted to get off their medication, get completely off their medication through doing the series work because it just got this chemical trauma out of them that was causing the static. It's causing the extreme polarity fluxes because everyone's different, Some of us might trap emotion and trauma and it comes out in different ways. Some of us, it might come out in a more bipolar, um, erratic, polarization of emotion. Or it might come out in extreme aggression or anger or rage. Everyone is different. We're all in a very abstract place in where we're supposed to be naturally, which is our bodies should just not be carrying being 6 years old and the kid that picked on you in fifth grade. You shouldn't be carrying that. So you should know just by the fact that no one's flushed this stuff out and you haven't flushed it out, some part of you has deviated from your divine, true, authentic self.
No,
And
yeah, because when I saw your movie, it really spoke to me that I needed to do this and learn this because it seemed like there was an incomplete methodology in the healing systems that I had learned. Not that they were wrong, but
oh,
there was something missing that I was still storing the trauma. I was still having to go on like weird anti-inflammatory diets and all these other things that through what you said earlier about blessing the food, honoring the food, like I just learned that practice and now you're confirming that. And I also wanted to thank you for that talk you did about being more responsible with the sexual energy because I was hearing too much stuff through other healers that you had to hold on to it and it didn't make sense to me and it was causing almost a problem in my mind until I heard you say it and it resonated as truth that that's just the fluid.
it's actually called stealing the tiger's purse in the Tao. So I just want you guys to
Okay.
know, out of all the new age men out there that are just in this off teaching, I just want all you men to know there are so many Taoist practitioners and we are so frustrated as much as we can be out of our Zen state in this misteaching. Okay, there's literally a phrase in the Taoist practice called stealing the tiger's purse. That this causes problems with you. So this is the problem is listen, if you really want to know about seminal retention and you feel like you want to evolve your sexual practices because you don't like that they are lower level because you've recognized that this is some, I'm going to just throw it out there, this is like the monkey fucking lower level animal stuff, okay? And maybe you as the masculine has realized that and you want to do something about it. I get it and I applaud you. But if you really want to do that, why don't you go buy a book and actually learn about how to do it and not hear secondhand from somebody to tell you to just do this and try it? Why don't you learn a little bit more about what you're feeling called to expand and evolve and become more conscious around? So I'm going to suggest that you get a book by Montauk Chia called Cultivating Sexual Energy for Men. Okay? And I want you to grab another book, ladies. It's called Cultivating Sexual Energy for Women. For you, there's actually two different series of Taoist practices because the sexes are different. And so there are different practices for both sexes in the Tao, in what we call sexual kung fu. And it's I mean, really, it's an art. It is a martial art. So, and all these practices, guys, they are individual practices. Okay. There's like 3 techniques, men, you can do for your lingam in the shower. It takes like 5 minutes to do. Okay. Not even, that are so healthy to move the fluid of your body, of your lingam, whether you're being sexual or you're not being sexual. Super simple exercises, very easy. And a dear brother of mine, Lauren Johnson, who, gosh, I gotta remember his. I have to remember his. I will put his website in the. We'll put it in the comments. It's God, it's like 2-4 wellness. That's why I mix up. It's like a number and 241. He has this man, especially for the men out there. This guy, my brother, has gone. He's trained directly with Montauk Chia. So much of the Taoist sexual arts I've learned from my dear brother. We share and exchange techniques and arts. We both had the same yogi and Kundalini, and we were like his two sons. So we have a very kindred path of the spiritual sciences. He's now an acupuncturist, and just he went deep into the Eastern and the Tao and Qigong and Tai Chi, and that was kind of more the direction that he just went so deep into. So he has so many videos showing you different ways to cultivate your sexual energy as the masculine. Okay. And again, holistic truth will reflect it. This seed that you produce is powerful. It does hold your life essence. And if you just let it release out of you, which is what you train yourself to do when you're doing that, which by the way, we've been trained to do in our society and the porn and all that. And by the way, when you're releasing your energy and you shoot your life force out and you're watching one of these pornographic things that are all literally, they're all cesspools of demonic harvesting, just so you all know. I mean, they literally are. If you watch something and you release and your eyes are focused on the images, guess what happens to your energy? It shoots and it gets harvested right from you. It's why you feel exhausted. You feel like crap after. So my point is you're trained to just release your life force. Okay. So yes, you don't want to do that. But you also look at the opposite extreme. See how we are in the West? We try to go so extreme. We just we go from one extreme to another. So, but also, doesn't it make sense that completely shutting down the movement of a fluid that's designed to actually move properly would probably mess you up too? So this is where the discernment, critical thinking comes in. And also, guess what, guys? Bottom line, all of reality, three things are for all of your reality: indoctrination, observation, engagement. Think about it. How you perceive things. So we get indoctrinated, all right? And then we get lazy on creating alternate points of observation. Think about it, okay? If I just go from set points of observation, whether it's this person telling me something and I don't look into it and learn about it myself and look at other alternative points of observation before I do that thing, I'm now limiting everything about my perception controlled to this one point of observation. Look, we do it with the mainstream media and the cesspool that is, right? Okay, it's a good example of it, all right? They control your points of observation. And so many people, including my parents, believe that they watch the right and the left of the news and that they've somehow broke the code of manipulation and that they now see both sides. So they've found like, haha, I tricked the news manipulating me. No, okay. We won't even go there on that one. But the point is engagement. The third point is necessary. You have to engage into multiple points of observation to truly gain knowing on things. We've gotten lazy on that. So this is where this should be this is your greatest punk rock. Nowadays, it's punk rock and rebellious to speak out against these mass psychosis narratives, especially so many of these weird, twisted liberal narratives. Okay. All right. The gender stuff, all of it. Come on.
That's
why
garbage.
same with the diet psychosis stuff. I feel like these are all the ones that no one wants to really talk about, you know? But I got to tell you something. If God is the most hardcore on judgment as a sin, remember, sin just means missing the mark. Okay. But isn't it interesting that God is super hardcore on judgment? I mean, up there with worshiping false gods. So why is that? It's because all of us have deviated from our divinity and have no place to judge anything at all. See, so it's the epitome of, you know, you want to judge this person like this, spirit or God will bring that level of judgment to you. Boom. So you know what I see from a lot of these super self-righteous, and I still love all of you, super self-righteous vegans talking about how you're all more spiritual and making fun of the carcass eaters and how you say this. Do you know what comes up for me? A lot of judgment. Like an uncomfortable, ungodly feeling of self-righteous judgment. And it doesn't feel in alignment with source. It actually feels like you got tricked too, because I'm seeing some divine law crossing going on here in the name of thinking that you're trying to wake people up in a good way. and it kind of, it's almost like they started out with it, and I've just seen it get really accelerated where they're cracking jokes about it, and then it feels off still, like you're missing the mark, guys. Okay, and I just want to say, I'm calling it back. Like it feels like you're missing the point here, really, in all of this. So I want to reflect that. I'll be the first to tell you that the entire industrialization of food was to entrap souls, lower level organism souls, into a stuck reincarnation samsara wheel, and disconnect us from our relationship with what animals do. Animals eat other animals. Animals eat vegetables. Do you know what they do? They don't talk. They don't say a prayer, but they don't talk and distract themselves while they're eating. They're fully embraced in gratitude and love and awareness of the significance of this life in vegetable or animal form that they are taking in. They have a pure, that's how souls reincarnate in the animal lower organism spectrum. They reincarnate off the consuming of each other. They think about like a prey getting consumed by a lion that has a longer lifespan and goes through more things. Do you know what I mean? And so these are just smaller increments of how souls keep upgrading. They become part of higher organism life experiences. And then as they reincarnate, it sattvikally moves them up. I mean, this is depicted in so many ancient civilizations, by the way. It truly is. And so, but we tend to just watch things be filtered and manipulated. Um, uh, and I think the New Age psychosis is, I mean, there's a reason it's even in prophecy as one of the greater deceptions that there is. Right. So like just bringing it back to center, because I definitely would like to take some more questions. I know I'm getting like quite a few sent to me. Let's see. Are you? Oh, right. Okay. Got you. Okay, cool. All right. Sacred pause. I'm just looking at a few of these to get context here. And I've been like intuitively guided to speak. I feel like I'm fielding people's questions and directing to speak about it. But yes, a few of these I would love to get to. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right. So what's gonna happen when you go through your spring cleaning is gonna be a good burst of momentum to get off of pharmaceuticals. I'm not saying you should put that pressure on yourself, because like I have an apprentice right now, type 1 diabetic, not type 1 diabetic, by the way, was told that when she was 10 years old and brainwashed with it over a blood test that said she had high sugar levels. I'm not joking, people. She was death sentence that she's a diabetic. You're going to have to take this insulin the rest of your life. By the way, she didn't start getting any type of symptoms of being a diabetic till after they started giving her medication. Then all of a sudden, boom, insulin. She's lived with this psychosis. So we've been breaking that psychosis. She's down from like 75 units down to like 15 units throughout the day. She's not dying. Her whole system is resetting after the spring cleaning. It gave her the boost to move on it. Now, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was meditating because right after I saw your movie release, I actually got an aha moment. And then I went into like about a 30-minute meditation, and I just saw this image of myself without any medication anymore. And I was really happy.
That's it. And that's the thing is, so you want to use your spring cleaning and the momentum that it builds to improve those things, to implement like, all right, I'm going to go down in my medications, right? Like my auntie who lives under me, she had high blood pressure medications she really wanted to get off, and she was able to break those, and she made a stand with it. And it wasn't right after the session, it was after her body had been integrating. She'd been really working on it, and she finally made this stand, and she did it. She broke all of them. Excuse me. She's off of them now. So you you don't want to push it, but you want to test the waters, and you also, your body might tell you, you know what, we're done with these. I'm serious. I've
Mhm.
seen patients go like that. We'll get through the series. They'll keep flushing. They'll keep stretching, keeping their body open. All of a sudden, they also don't feel they need them because remember, your perception of reality is chemically based. When we change your chemistry, that naturally changes your perception. Where you take that is totally up to you, but that change of perception can also affect all kinds of things. Prescription medicines that you were taking because your perception of reality was super hammered or was influxed with all this weight chemically and psychophysical weight that you were carrying. We flush that all of a sudden. There's just not that pressure. There's more space. So yes, and part of our whole thing with this is you building a relationship with mind and body again, and that your mind is going to listen to your body and building that communication, and that's going to be coming down to really listening. And that's where sometimes it'll be confronting because patients will be asking me things and I'll be like, what does your body tell you? And they don't know how to even ask it because they still aren't believing that it has all of the information. The more you listen to it and more you give your body credit, because your body is doing thousands of things to keep you alive right now while you're focusing on me talking. So I want you to think about that. It's kind of like a astrophysics genius, and we're like a fifth grader in the mind that thinks we're really smart, but the body doesn't. It speaks in, astrophysics, so it doesn't know how to communicate that to the fifth grader who doesn't know astrophysics. So we have to learn how to listen to this vehicle, and it does that through sensation. It does that through, you might just get an image of your heel, you know God, what's going on with my heel? Oh, there's a little piece of glass about to go into my foot. Boom, got it. I'm serious. Like, your system will tell you of things. It's just when the lines of communication shut down, which all of ours naturally do, when the nerves aren't tended to. Isn't it weird? We have all these styles of body work and none of them really deal with the nervous system. Everyone has been told to stay away from the nerves. Is that why I'm like just like rogue cowboy Jedi nervous system electricity guy? Like, I wasn't afraid of those because I met someone who wasn't afraid of those and then fixed me by going into the wiring. That's why I even facilitate this work. And that's part of what happens as a practitioner is you see how taking people through their trauma on the other side of it is freedom. And that's why you can do it. And I want to also say this takes a unique individual with a strong will to be able to initiate this work. It's a powerful thing. It's like being a birth doula or somebody who helps bring a baby into the world. There's like, it can be some very intense challenges you have to be able to work through with somebody, but you become the best at doing it from the rebirthing process you go through yourself. And that's why if you want to become a practitioner, you have to do your spring cleaning and at least one core series as a prerequisite because it's it's taking you into the deepest journey to even be ready to learn this, you know? And so for those that want to take the self-treatment public course, that's like an amazing foundation to learning to do this work. Think about it. We train our practitioners in this before we teach them how to do the full pattern on another person. So it is a profound templating system. And to me, it's the most infinite value you can get with neuromuscular therapy because you're learning how to service yourself. You're learning the keys to unlock and heal your own body. And there are variances to the pattern of the self-treatment system to the one you do on somebody else. And that's just, some of it is even just body mechanics. Like I use my thumbs to lift the eyes because there's a whole sequence to reset your eyes and make sure your eyes don't lose fluid so they will work better longer and they won't go bad. And so we use the thumbs when we're doing it on somebody, but we use two fingers when we're doing it on ourselves because this is easier to lift the eyes just simply in the socket with my two fingers. I have more control. So there are nuances you'll see through the different patterns in that regard. And, we haven't even done a core series training. We only have practitioners that are trained in the spring cleaning, literally. So we have to get on this. I mean, it's like I need to do a core program. It probably won't come till 2023 because I'm looking to get as many level 1 practitioners trained right now. Because at this point, folks, like we have people all over the world. Like my practitioners, I've already talked to them, like where you want to go, Kenya, Australia, Germany, the UK, like these are all communities that are answering the call of release. So, and for those in Europe, just so you know, I have one of our practitioners, she'll be up on the page. Her name is Liv. She's amazing. I believe she's in Norway, but that's our only NMRT practitioner in Europe. And last time I talked to her, she was like so slammed already just on her own before this movie even came out. So, there is now a global demand and good. That means that we have to start that means we have to answer that call and bring more practitioners into the world. So we're working on a July program. Like I said, I'd like to do one even before. I'll be training practitioners out here on Kauai. I'm about to start just a little mini program because I have 2 practitioners already on island. You know, a couple people could potentially get it on those. I'm trying to get as many practitioners trained as possible. But what's powerful right now is that I already created a template with all these videos for you guys to learn how to at least start doing it on yourself. So, all right, I'm going to jump into this other question, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, truly. And stay in touch for the programs. Yeah.
I will.
Awesome. Truly, because I feel like
I've already emailed the Gmail account, so I'm in touch with people already.
yeah, I feel like you know, I've helped 25 people to learn this, and you know, only probably about, I think maybe 18 of them are currently practicing, and there's an energy signature with those that really have embodied this work, and so you kind of learn to feel it after so many. So I've felt it, and I just want to say, everyone that's written me, I felt such a strong pulse from you as well, brother. I think you'd be really good at this, and I think you'd be able to reach people in communities that I wouldn't, and that's the focus too. What niche, what little thing are you going to get into where you could bring this in with both shamanic work, or as well as Reiki, and or you know, Chinese herbs? Like, there's so many ways. We've had acupuncturists that they'll and this is one of the, we used to do neuromuscular release therapy. So just so everybody knows, on acupuncture front, I've been super pro at acupuncture, and then when I, you know, spirit tends to evolve truth, and then I learned about the electromagnetic mud packing and the interference fields, and it was like, wow, okay, I have to acknowledge this information is significant, and I can't disregard it because I love acupuncture. But I will tell you, in terms of like really helping people with extreme conditions, I would do NMRT on a patient on one part, let's say their arm, and then I'd have an acupuncturist place needles all along the points that we just flushed, and they would just flood toxins out. I mean, it's a really accelerated way to help people detox that are really sick. So an acupuncturist could still do an NMRT and place a couple needle points in the base points of the hand, and you're going to have the most profound outlet for that detox that's not just in the blood. And it's funny, I've had a few colleagues as acupuncturists, and they were like, wow, I just need to show you like 4 or 5 points, bro, and you just need to have your own needles and put them in those spots after you release people. And that's because they were going through the work as acupuncturists and going, oh my gosh, we need to hit these 3 points, and this will just flood right out my hand or out my big, you know, out my foot. So you can combine practices with this work. I want everyone, I want you to learn the foundation in its integrity, and then where you evolve and refine it from there is naturally what you're supposed to do with something. So, but the focus really is going deep into the purity of this template first, embodying that first, and that's going to come learning to practice on yourself. So, all right. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, let's see. I'm going to just read through a few of these. So unfortunately, because of the unfortunately, because of all the same legalese BS that we have, citizenships and birth certificates and all that, they have made it very hard for us to create programs that we can be certified on a state and national level. And I believe this is to deter people that have healing systems that want to help heal the world that's alternative to Western medicine. So I one of my friends is one of the board on the board of California Board of Massage, and I was awesome elder, and I was talking to her, and she was like, honestly, she was like, it's going to cost you around like $60,000 to $90,000 of investment to be able to get NMRT to be a national or certified system. She was like, I would offer this to practitioners that as an extension, as an advanced continued learning system, and you can still have their hours be regarded, et cetera, et cetera. So as of right now, like, we have trained practitioners who were completely not certified practitioners, like patients that felt called to the work. And remember, for each one of you, if you get your spring cleaning and core, you've already done the prerequisite to learn how to do this work. So it's kind of cool. On top of being a patient, you could also become, at any point, you've gotten your prerequisite to do that. So my point is that the 60-hour course that we do, even if we train someone and they want to learn this first, we support them to go off and go to massage school and get your basic certification. Because you know what? It's a magical journey to do that. And eventually, when we have an institute, we will have the funding and the foundation to where if you wanted to, you could come to the Matrix Body Mechanics Institute, you could get your certification fully in basic massage therapy, both state and nationwide. And then NMRT will be one of the primary extension courses in the institute that we teach. Does that make sense? So, it helps because we do go through anatomy and physiology, but in our 60-hour advanced course over 11 days, where we're going 8-9 hours a day, we are focused on, there's so much to get into with neuromuscular release therapy. We do go through anatomy and physiology, but we don't take you through, what you'd go through in a massage therapy certification program where they're spending weeks on anatomy and physiology. So most practitioners are intermediate to advanced or beginning. And like I said, some of my best practitioners weren't certified at all. And I also want to throw this out there to my certified and licensed practitioners. Sometimes I've seen it's been the 30, 40-year-old practitioners that are a little more alienated with learning neuromuscular therapy because they're kind of set in the practices they've done. So it ends up being a little challenging where somebody who is just a pure vessel comes in and just absorbs this so cleanly. So gifts and challenges from both. Either way, I would suggest that you can also become a reverend, a minister, and I recommend the Universal Life Church ministry. And you also, through that ministry, can place your hands on people and do treatments. And there's a whole way to be able to do that you can check out with the Universal Life Church. If you don't feel like complying to the system in the state and being registered as a licensed massage therapist and going through all the BS. And I'll tell you, it is, as a practitioner, very deterring to learn healing sciences. And I believe they do that on purpose, which is why I won't turn away a practitioner who wants to learn this in the advanced course. We just are very clear that, you are certified in this advanced course through our system, but we recommend that you still do this if you're going to legally practice, or if you're actually going to practice, get your certification. You're going to learn more. You're going to go so deep. You'll even build a practice being an NMRT practitioner in a massage school because you'll be showing them stuff they've never even seen, and everyone's there to learn about bodyworks and healing. So that's actually what I did when I took my certification. I was training with the man who taught me the base principles of this and started cultivating NMRT. And I brought it into my massage school at the Touch Therapy Institute and started treating all my teachers and everyone wanted to learn this because it was far more effective. And it was helping them with their shoulder or their knee, or it actually wasn't just relaxing, it was fixing things structurally. So anyways, I just wanted to answer that for Angela. Thank you. Marcy, my biggest current challenge is my right shoulder. Got it. So many of us on that because it's your cross to bear. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to say for like Marcy, check the practitioner page. There are people, I am going to put the locations for our practitioners. So my apologies. You're in Dallas. There's at least one person in the Austin area. And I know I have one of my practitioners, Anthony Sabatini. He's in, I believe, or around or was Austin. And so we're going to be having practitioner calls. I'm going to be getting everyone's geolocations and also where they're willing to go. And if you are, and I would recommend it, just one state over, it's totally worth it to make it over to where one of my people are. There are 2 practitioners in Los Angeles that are fully on board. And then we have a dear practitioner and brother, Alex. Alex is in Utah, but he's going to be going to Alaska, but will be in Los Angeles as well. And he'll be traveling from Utah to LA and then LA to Alaska. So there's several states going in between there. And I would definitely contact Alex as well. He's going to be doing, one of our practitioners doing an international walkabout. So he's open, receptive, and ready to be in service. Really, he just got like divinely guided, even that he was supposed to do this before he even knew that the movie released. So there's just been some really beautiful syncretic aspects to this. And let's see, spiritual disc, slower disc. Awesome. Where are you at, Joe? Joe is, you put your location on here, Joe. Joe. So we're going to touch base on Joe's because he's talking about this slip disc listen, guys, the westernization of yoga, because he goes, it's so ironic because I did 10 years of Ashtanga. Here's the thing. Ashtanga is a very aggressive practice. It's never been one I've read has resonated towards out of all. And I have friends who are that's the practice they went deep in. They maybe trained in it, or they egoically felt like they became, you know, more advanced in it. So maybe they didn't branch out to other systems. So they just said, no, I'm Ashtanga. And, you know, but my point is that, you know, it's a very fast and aggressive system. And unfortunately, through the fast movements and sequences, when we're starting to decompress our body, some areas in our body are going to decompress less than others. So some areas will start getting really stretched and conditioned, in other areas they won't. And that can even be parts of your spine. You know, your lumbar spine might be really tight, but your thoracic spine starts gaining more openness, right? And so what happens is then if we have a portion of our spine that's still really dense because it hasn't been detoxed, it hasn't been disarmed on a deeper level, that you just can't do with active practices. You got to have somebody open this up, because remember, guys, we shouldn't be in this place. All of us should have been doing this healing work on ourselves, so our spines never got to this place. So now we got some funky variables going on. We got a partially compressed spine that's now doing all of these more intensive spinal movements. And what's going to happen? You're going to have a crux point where the vertebral column wears, at the point where it's more flexed and hardened and atrophied, and where it's starting to gain sometimes way more accelerated, you know, elasticity, because when you're doing your stretches, you're not doing them even. And that's because the yogic sciences were designed to be taught one-on-one, not you and like 50 people in a class or 20 people. And so unfortunately, these little things go unchecked by Western teachers. And so someone could do a bunch of yoga and then wear out their vertebral padding in their, you know, L3-4, L3-5, or L3 and L4. So the thing that's cool is you can decompress your spine, even out the decompression, drain it, and, you know, tissue grows back. Vertebral padding will grow back if you can decompress the area it is. Unfortunately, because the compression is so direct and overwhelming, a lot of times it just keeps grinding, and then you have to have people get their disc replaced, etc. So all of this could be avoided with just more preemptive, prerequisite knowledge, really, for all of us. So I just wanted to share that for Joe, and that there is still hope to decompress your spine and stimulate some regrowth in that L3 and L4. Let's see, gut issues, candida, parasites, feeling. Got it. Yes, that's true, because guess what? The gut affects your brain, your dopamine, your serotonin, all of it. And sometimes it won't just be about supplements, although, you know, we're working on this probiotic yogurt that is so powerful. Honestly, if there's one thing that could totally turn your gut around, it would be a super probiotic with over 60 lactobacillus strains. 60. So, but there is a 4-directional abdominal technique that we do that is super magical for waking up the gut and activating. So this is all in the self-treatment as well. So yes, you can have that. And Austin, when you get the abdominal work from a practitioner, they can focus sometimes on the abdomen and the gut. And by the way, we do this in a clockwise motion. So your gut moves in a clockwise motion. So if we want to create movement, that's the way we go, which is pretty much all the time. It's going to be rare that somebody needs to be stopped up, if you will. Okay, is there a seminar scheduled for Southern Cal? No, there isn't one yet. We're looking at it. We're working on it. We're looking at the schedule and what we can do. Hi, please let me know. Online course starts. I will. Yes. Okay, so let's touch base about the self-treatment system. And it's honestly, it's about time for me and being able to do this production. The goal is to make a 13 video self-treatment system that you guys can watch in 13 videos. Okay. And eventually, we're going to make it as part of this online Matrix Biomechanics Online Institute, where you'll have access to all the different content that I've been putting together in your home. Okay. And kind of as if I was there. That's the goal, is to make it feel like my teacher, we'd be in the home one-on-one, in each other's space, going through the practices, getting asked questions. So that's always been the focus, is bringing the Eastern format to the West, which doesn't know how magical the Eastern format is, because it's all like Jedi stuff, one-on-one. Because that's monkey see, monkey do. Sometimes that's just the most effective way to do it. So I'm working on starting production for breaking up the self-treatment system. And eventually you could purchase the whole system to see all 13 videos, or you could just get one if you're like, I want to know how to do my arm. And we're still working out how all that's going to work, but I am working on it. So for now, there is the principles and techniques you can learn. Those are all free on Matrix Body Mechanics TV. I think they're probably on Rumble as well. But we will keep you posted via newsletter and everything like that. Yes, 100%. And that's like a whole journey in and of itself, about celestial beings and non-physical beings, and NMRT, because that's actually one of the ways that I there were two general crossings with non-physical entities. And when I say non-physical entities, I'm also including like angels, demons, this and that. And outside of the ones that came from the psychic surgeons, which were very supernatural, there were several instances that came from doing NMRT on patients and digging out their chemical trauma and watching these same creatures that I got to see in these powerful psychic surgeon sessions, where I'm watching someone's, gut being healed from a colostomy bag, and this black smoke leaves her stomach, and then her whole digestive system regenerates in like 12 hours. Like craziest, most powerful supernatural psychic healings that I got to be a part of and witness. And angels were sitting in the four corners of the room. So I had contacts, but what I noticed was these beings started coming out when I would dig into the trauma held in people. And that's when I started to learn that if you've had a traumatic experience and there's an entity or demon tied to somebody who initiated that trauma into you, you produce chemical memory around that trauma, and that chemical memory is like a physical hook that the non-physical entity can stay connected to you with. Now, remember we talked about you're supposed to flush all the chemical memories. So even if you took those traumas on and there was an entity behind that initiated it to try to bond to you through that chemical trauma, you would have flushed it out, because you went home and you dug that out for the day and cleared it, and boom. See, but that's not what happens. So you're carrying who knows how many of those. And those chemical memories, right? You better believe they have an energetic property to them, especially if it's around fear, anger, lower frequency. And so that's what I found as a cord. And the reason I saw it as a cord was because as I cleared those from people, it pissed off these demons and entities. It made them angry. They didn't like it. And so I kept doing it because I saw it was doing something. It was getting rid of them. And a few times they would come out and talk shit. All this stuff. You think you can get rid of me? I've been with her since she was 12. Like shit like that. Like you're like, okay, that was not her. Who the hell are you? And yeah, you're not supposed to be here, are you? And you don't like what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep doing that. And so it's we were recording a session actually at Premier Research Labs, and
I videoed on because it was my question.
oh, beautiful. Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you did. Well, we had someone who worked at Premiere that we were doing a session on, and I didn't know they were filming it, and this thing came out, and I just remember the two people I was training were just so white-faced, and I was like, you have no idea how rare it is that you get to see that, because these things, they especially don't like to be exposed. If it's just me in the room, yes, but if someone else is in the room, and they hate being filmed. So they actually ended up filming a lot of that, which I would love to see where that footage is today. Yeah, putting that shout out, Sean, if you see this, Tanisha, if you see this, I know that footage is probably still on your hard drive. I wouldn't have deleted it. It was crazy. So supernatural. So yeah. And then also there are, if you understand the celestial construct, we all have three guides that we take when we come here in our higher self. And so many times in sessions, the three guides of the person, sometimes I see them, it's very rare unless they want to be seen. If anything more, the person will see them or know they're there or feel them in some way or something. And their three guides kind of come around, and sometimes their higher self, depends. By the way, I just want everyone to have perspective because this was very surprising to me when I learned about the celestial realm. Your higher self has free will, okay? And so do your three guides. So if you're being a fucktard, sorry, I'm just going to use that, or if you're being an idiot and you're not living your path and purpose, they can take off from you. Literally, they have the choice. They can be like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. I'm out of here. I know because my higher self took off and I had to have this whole process to get him to come back in and dialogue channeled through this oracle where I'm talking to myself and he would refer to me as myself, know myself, this, that, and whatever. And I'd be like, oh yeah, myself. Well, guess what? Like, you need to get back in here because like, what are you? So anyways, mine was about that my higher self is of this king identity and was like, what is this art BS? And so when I was a child, this is just, I'm just giving you perspective on how weird the celestial realm is and how layered it is. When I was a child, there was a entity in a book that my mom read me before I'd go to sleep at night. And it was not a malicious entity. It was like a creative artsy entity. And it was looked like this giant kind of wolfen creature that wasn't malicious. And I invited this creature into my psyche to do creative art and stuff because I loved art. And I had to literally tell this thing to leave so my higher self would come back because he was like, what is this art crap and all this? And so he took off. So I had to have this whole process. This was about 17 years ago where I had to say, you have to go now. And here's the weird thing. He's channeling through this oracle and he's like, well, what about this drawing we did? Now, she doesn't know this drawing I did since I was a kid. He's describing through her the drawings that I did and this and that. And I had to be like, no, that was all me. That's my creativity, you know? And we had some fun together, I guess. I thought that was all me. Like, no, you can go now. So I had to, and then my higher self came back in and we had this whole process and it was a whole thing. And it was like, whoa, everything has free will. Like, if you're not living in alignment with, you take three guides. When I say three guides, it's three of your family members. It's friends or family you've had in other lifetimes that have chosen to support you in this life. So, I mean, if you're not living your path and purpose, like, kind of defeats them helping you, really. It's not what they signed up for. They signed up to be your guides or support system to live the purpose that you're supposed to live. If you deviate from that with your free will, then they can choose to not help you too. Same with the higher self. Higher self can be like, I'm out of here. I'll go cruise around until this whole life incarnation's done. So it was fascinatingly different than I had preconceived through a lot of the new age stuff. There was a beautiful element that I feel like everyone forgets, and that is the free will side of it, that it's not just your free will here, it's your free will you have in your higher form that's also connected, that's not fully together while you're here in this avatar illusion construct of being whoever your avatar body is in this life, in the physical, be in the simulation.
So a couple of things. It's interesting that you said this stuff about the black smoke because there has been a patient very early on. So I'm the licensed acupuncturist in Texas that I've been asking. Yeah. Before I even started working on this individual, I just stepped into basically his space, and from the left of him, black smoke basically came out of him. And I was like, what did I just witness? Like something just left. And it hasn't happened since. Other things have happened, but I didn't have the words to describe what I experienced. So I totally get what you're saying there. Another thing I was going to ask you is, and it just left me. Yeah, I think that was pretty much I just wanted to know like the spiritual different dimensions and all of that stuff too. So
it's weird how much there's been multiple reports from practitioners that we talk about of the black smoke, the black smoke leaving. I actually one of the most powerful healings I had was with that same psychic surgeon. She was doing this work on my abdomen and like just with all her hands going in, and she pulled, as she hooked and pulled, this literally black smoke came out of my belly and went out the window. It was so tangible and real. It was like, I've seen, I've seen a very small list of extremely supernatural things that I've totally witnessed, and each one has progressively expanded my awareness for
Mhm.
what an illusion this world is.
Right.
And that was definitely one of them. Now, many psychics with this neuromuscular work have described when we do sequences in the primary junction points of the nerves and subchakras, shoulders, knees, and hips, they'll see these black plumes of smoke coming off
Mhm.
energetic. And what we actually call that is, we have a name for it now in NMRT because it's become so tangible and real. In fact, when you're doing this as a practitioner, when you're working on yourself, if you find an area that's really intense and you
Mhm.
stay working on it, watch what happens. Your hands will start stinging. Does anyone notice that? Your hand will lock up and start stinging. So as for us as practitioners, when we're digging into a really deep area like in the hip, it's like an ink quill. It'll start soaking up, and the pain starts building up to where my hand is like tetany seized, and I have to pull it out. And then we have a Taoist form. Everyone can try this, by the way. If you ever see how Christ, he's like this, these are the two primary nerve channel fingers. Although you can't see it, there's energy that shoots out of them. Psychic people can see this, by the way, especially with really powerful people. The energy shoots out of each one of your fingers. So if you take your fingers and start at 12 o'clock and you go clockwise and make a circle and push through it, you will feel that with that energy, when you create a circle, it creates a vacuum into the portal of space, and you can push energy into it. So this is a Taoist technique that I took on because I was using candles to burn this stuff off when it would like lock my hands up. And that's why we call it etheric burn off. And here's where it's really weird. When I'm digging in the deepest areas in very sick people, I can pull my hands out and I can push that onto a flame, and black smoke burns off. Literally, there is a chemical change for this non-physical off-gassing of the chemical drainage that's coming. It makes sense. Anything physical is going to have an energetic deposit to it. So as we're draining your memory, there is an off-gassing of an energy. And that's just to show you how much energy does also get held in the body along with chemical memory. And last thing I just want to drop on this, if we're an electromagnetic battery pack, right? That means when we feel emotions get contained in electromagnetic fields in our body. And those fields get anchored with the chemical deposit. So when we flush this, there's also an electromagnetic field release. And that field release is going to come in the or it's like laughing, crying. Like this is a very common it's almost like you're laughing and crying simultaneously, because that's the memory draining. It's the strangest feeling when you get this work and you have an emotional release. And what's cool is once you get the signature of that, kind of like with shamanic medicine, when you purge, once you like learn how to purge, you can go deep into your purgings. In fact, people love the purge. So that's what happens with this emotional off-gassing release with NMRT. You build a skill in learning how to let it come off of you. And one of the biggest hindrances is not feeling comfortable letting this stuff come out as we access it on the table. I always have to challenge everybody, because they don't want to let it out and go, who are you? I don't know you. And I'm like, be selfish. Like it would be like draining a pussy wound and you're trying to scoop the pus back in. Anyone would be like, what are you doing? This has got to come out. So that's what it's like if you fall to as those emotions are getting access and you're doing all this work with us, it's so intense. If you try to not let that emotion just fully come out, it's literally like trying to keep yourself from going to the bathroom. And so eventually everyone wears that down, because they might fight it at first, but we'll get to a place where they have their breakthrough, and you feel the electromagnetic field clear with the emotion and the chemical memory. And it's so beautiful, and their face changes, and it's totally like a birthday. It's just, you're different after, and it takes that, and I had this really sweet couple from Utah. Shout out. I'm sure they will see this. And I do sessions where if you're a couple or a mom and a sister, mom and son, father, daughter, you can get your NMRT session together. I do two sessions at one time. I do a full tandem session. And I mean, if we're in the clinic, I can actually see like a few people, because while you're integrating from one sequence, I'm doing the sequence on someone else, and we cycle like that, like running rounds. And so what's powerful is when you have two people in session together, that's like a couple, they can be this support system for each other as they go through the different sections, and it becomes fun and playful, and it's so powerful to watch each other emotionally release together and release traumas that were in there before they even got together. And I can't think of a more, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful process to witness. And there was like a point where, and this is always funny, and I want to reflect this to everyone, and this is why our partnerships can be so unique, is there's always like the super high strung like spiritual yoga mom, and then there's like the super chill husband who's actually like so spiritually dialed and like grounded, and he just and here's what's funny is like they'll be so surprised because they do so much work to find peace, and then look at him. I thought this work would be just so intense for him. He's just laying there just loving it. And here's why, guys, because there's two ways that you can go through this life. You can go through this life letting things move past you, or you can be a hoarder. And unfortunately, many of us, it's honestly a skill set. It literally is. The people that can learn to let things go, it is literally, there's no difference with them than you. They have learned another pattern, another habit that's a good habit. They've learned, and everyone can learn to do that. And so it's really powerful when you see somebody who lets things go more, the difference in their body and what they're holding, how much less. And we finally got to a place where she was struggling so much with the pain and inflammation, which is ultimately on the surface from the emotional bubble release. And when she had that, it just shifted the frequency of the room. And it was so powerful to see her just release and let that go and have him be anchored for her. It was so beautiful. And each one of the, I mean, that's why we do this work overall, guys. I will say it's very special. It's really awesome. You'll work on unconscious people that you're just helping them to make their body work better. But a lot of those people, as you do that, will become more conscious, and they'll actually become deeper as they go into more of the core work. But, the really magic with this work is the people that have really put their work in, and the body's the one thing holding them back. And it's just like a freaking slingshot of awakening.
Yes. So, yeah, I remember what I was going to say now was that I love what I do. I love doing acupuncture, right? But I know I've gotten to the point where I have patients where I'm like, I know what I have to offer, but what you need is so much. We have to go so much deeper. We have to go into different, and I'm just like, I don't know. So anyway, so when I saw the documentary, I had my own releases. I think I cried probably the entire time, which was great. But I'm just like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, this is that deep next level stuff that I don't have yet. Right.
And that you yourself need, and it's going to take you to the next level to take them through that. And that's part of why you're like, I can't even, because I got to do that for me. Like, they're a reflection for you of like, this is going to take me to another level of how I usher people through this. And for all of us, and I'll tell you this because, like, one of my only NMRT practitioners that was on island, she had to move off island. She had a child, and she's awesome. Her name's Medi. Her info's on the practitioner list, guys. She's very awesome, and just she's the only apprentice that I had that came to Kauai to train further after the apprenticeship program, and was just a gangster. She just like literally assisted me, like stayed in my house, helped me with my kids through some really hard times and stuff, and was just a gangster tribe member, and a deep believer and lover of NMRT and neuromuscular therapy and release. And like, when we were going through these transformational programs together, you just change so much through it. That's like she's such a different person after going through learning it, everything like that. But when I look at who she is now, you know what I mean? And that is because the coolest stuff with this work comes later. It's the weirdest thing. It's like, you'll do the work, your body will change, your psyche, your happiness, your mood, your chemical perception. But then there's like this whole wave of growing up that happens because you see, like, okay, I'll give you a really good example. You're in traffic, you like have a hot tea, you like do something and go to spill it, and like, instead of freaking out, you like, and having a whole process, you like grab that shit real quick and put it over in the cup and just dry yourself off. You didn't freak out at all. And you almost stop through the process and you go, oh my gosh, I totally just was like so cool through that. Didn't have a tantrum at all in this whole thing. And I've had tantrums before. You just start seeing where your psyche starts not doing this little kid stuff anymore. That you didn't realize a lot of those things they transfer over. My yogi would say, we're listening to ourselves as babies. You're just a baby in a big adult body. Or you see that guy? He has like 300,000 people in his company. And he's having a tantrum in traffic like a child with no awareness, you know? And it's true. It is, that's one of the weird and sad things of how desensitized to the abomination of what we all are, and the fact that we should never be holding what we're holding, especially as practitioners. You know what I mean? And that's like, she moved away, so I don't have anyone to do an MRT on me. So I've had to really go back into the self practices, you know? But even having my 11-year-old son, who, by the way, I've taught to do the full spine sequence. All my kids know how to at least do the spine sequence because it's the most magical of all the sequences. So my 11-year-old's just working on me. Spine sequence. Oh my God, I had like the craziest emotional release, and like it just grounded me so much back into like, oh my gosh, like we have to get this work done. Like as practitioners, if we don't, we get desensitized. You know what I mean? To what we're carrying. And gosh, that release for me from my son affected the next 3 sessions in such a beautiful way. I like went into the deepest level of facilitation to take people through some really tough stuff, you know?
Wow.
And I wouldn't have been exactly there had I not had the release on myself. And so you do see this with the self-treatment system, because you know, you get so excited, you learn how to do this on someone, you just want to be doing it on everybody. And so a lot of the times the apprentices will come back to the self-treatment system when they are hurt or injured, and who's going to work on you? You know what I mean? Like, so they'll come back to it. And that's what I did. I mean, it has saved, I had a torn, all these torn ligaments in my ankle that, I was carrying my daughter, and we have this Asian grass here. I can't remember what style of, but it looks dense, but it's squishy. And so I had stepped partially on a stepping stone, and my ankle just buckled. And to take the blunt force and not transfer it to my daughter, I just, you know, I did it all to my ankle, because I would have just collapsed onto her. If I had like tucked and rolled with the movement, that wouldn't have ripped my ankle. And so I just literally started working on it right there. I set my daughter down and just started digging out all the tendons, and it swelled up into a massive balloon around my foot. And I went to my neighbor, was an ER doctor, and he was like, listen, man, I mean, I don't want to depress you. You're going to walk again, but you're not going to run again with this, you know? And he was like, and you should probably get the surgery and this and that. I was like, all right, well, I'll check in with you in a few days. I'm going to just do some more neuromuscular work on it. I went running past him a week later. And then he became a patient of mine, and I fixed his knee. ER doctor. He couldn't believe, like, and it was super cool, because, you know, here I am being told by an ER doctor, medical doctor, this is what's up. And so it was really funny. I didn't realize it was him when I was running. He pulled up alongside me. He was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh, what's up with your knee? He goes, yeah, let's see. I want to talk to you about my knee. So even in the medical doctor psychology, the occult practices, when they see something they're just blown away by, that they'll be like, what? Wait a second, you know, because they even respect results too. It was the same. I broke my heel bone, and I was told by the osteopath 4 months till the bone fuses. It fused in 1 month. I had my x-ray 1 month after he saw me, and he was just like, I don't get it. Wait, what are you doing? Can I send patients in recovery to you? Like, what's the deal? This is like, whoa, I've never seen this. So, and that's because unfortunately their body of knowledge is very limited. And it's been controlled, and it has nothing to do with the inner physician. It has to do with, you are a dumb hunk of flesh. And if we don't stitch this here and tear this here and just cut that right there, and it's like, to me, it's just it's such a medieval. I mean, look, if you think at allopathy, it's war medicine. It was designed in times of war to like have to stop somebody from bleeding out, you know? And then we just kind of kept it going as if war kept going. And I guess they had to keep wars going. It made more sense to keep the war going. But you know, it's inefficient. It just is. And I'm sorry, but if you're in that field, It's time to evolve or die off. We're just at that place in our society. It's just happening, isn't it? Everywhere. In the politics, in the medicine, in the food, all of it. And rightfully so. This is the age we're in. It's a bronze age. It's an age of disclosure. It's an age of breaking prisonal systems. It's why they don't want you to know about urine therapy. It's all, and that's why I'm telling you, it's the greatest rebellion to get knowledgeable,
Right.
to gain knowledge, and to uncover the stuff that they're trying to cover up.
Is Anthony the guy? Is he the closest one here from Dallas? Because I'm also in Dallas.
I think
Austin?
he was in Florida. I'm
Okay.
going to have a group call with everybody, but we have another practitioner, Kellen. Kellen was in Austin. Now I think he's in Florida. Alex is going to be passing through, I believe, Austin en route from Utah to LA. I don't think he's flying. I think he's traveling by car. I'm not 100%, but anyways, so everyone, we are going to have a practitioner call soon. I've been trying to get them all together, and now I have to update a few of their bios. They got back to me, and like I said, I know a few of their overall trajectories. Medi's in Los Angeles. I have another practitioner, Tanya, that's also in Los Angeles. But they're willing, at least Medi's willing to go Southern Cal. She's down. She makes trips to San Diego and stuff too, and
Okay.
north. And then, yeah, I'm just kind of pooling to see where everyone else is. I've put up everyone that I know at least is available. Oh, and one of the most magical Jedis, his name's Oren, one of my most awesome apprentices, and deeply practices all the qigong and the Eastern sciences and Eastern practices. He is in Idaho, but also travels around to Washington and areas, and he's willing to as well. So we have powwows coming because I know a lot of the practitioners. I want them to do a refresher of the self-treatment so that they can start doing these self-treatment trainings as well where they're at. They can start doing these 3-day programs. So we're going to be doing a refresher for them to facilitate, because I need to take them back through the full self-treatment pattern to help them with anything they forgot. Remember, guys, it will seem complicated, but I promise you, we're even working on a children's song like head, shoulders, knees and toes to learn how to just press and stimulate the base areas to cause some release in the body because of how alienated to touch we are as a people. And so, it may seem complicated because you have all these different muscles that seem overwhelming, but I promise you, as you just start doing the techniques, you'll start feeling around, you'll start finding these primary junctions, and then what you thought you'd do for 5 minutes, you might be 30 minutes in and still going. It becomes a self-exploration that is beautiful and rewarding and empowering and connecting, and there's no surprises anymore. Cancer grows in you for 10 years before it's detected. Okay. So there is no excuses for you. You had 10 years to battle that. Get your immune system, your lymphocytes, your killer T cells dialed, your Navy SEALs of your body dialed, and take that out. So that means for those of you, all of us come in contact with cancer cells 2 to 3 times in our lifetime, little cancer, it's if you get rid of it. So right now, you could have those cultivating and could be activating your system, turning on the communication lines, isolating where those growths are and knocking them out, and so this is the greater perspective is, listen, you're already laying in bed at night, you're already trying to relax and get out of your head. Just even a basic palpation and squeeze symmetrically up and down, head, shoulders, knees and toes, and you relax. Oh, look at that, you're kind of all tingly, your body's feeling like euphoric, those are those endorphins kicking in, you fall asleep way deeper. It's not hard. We really just have to start sticking to, and we have to start integrating the awareness of a regimen that you got two cleanings to do, folks. You got your body brushing and your mouth brushing. You got your oral hygiene and your aura hygiene, right? Because your aura is going to be affected by your chemical toxicity or your chemical density level of chemicals that are not supposed to be there. They were supposed to be flushed long ago, and they're rancid now, which means they have more of an acidic base. You know what happens to the two proteins of your nerves? They get eaten away by these acids. That's why your nerves deteriorate, and all disease is neurodegenerative. All this stuff, it makes sense because it's true.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a system that addresses the wires. So it's time to, my dad used to do this thing where he called it Mr. Electricity, and he would squeeze our hand and roll our knuckles. And so there was a whole song, you guys, and I'm going to, this is for my dad. It goes, hello, it's me. My name is Mr. Electricity. And then he would go, ah, and we would dance around and because he would squeeze our hands together. And so I told my dad, I was like, I guess this is kind of your fault because I'm kind of Mr. Electricity now. And I feel like you did this. So now it's time for me to electrocute you. And sadly, my dad won't let me. And I want to speak to the reference of that is, the masculine's been super just head jacked like the feminine in all of this psychosis. And part of it is being alienated around touch. And, when you press on my dad's shoulders in his muscles, it feels like hard bone. Okay. And that's because that's what happens to muscle fibers when they get so atrophied and condensed, they fill up and they harden, and you literally harden into a statue. That's almost the metaphysics of it. If you don't keep your tissue flushed and soft, then it will atrophy and harden to you almost turn to stone. And we've seen that metaphysically in so many stories. And it's because you literally harden and solidify. And men used to say, oh, you feel that? Oh yeah, that's strong. No, that's not strong. Okay. If you were to palpate Bruce Lee's muscles, who was one of the most conditioned human beings on the planet, they were squishy and noodly. But if he needed to be hard, it was iron rock like that, because healthy muscle is versatile. It can be soft and pliable, and it can be super hard. It can take lots of punches. And that's why even in martial arts, we condition ourselves to take impacts. I mean, we do conditioning exercises like this with bamboo sticks to condition and stimulate our nerves, because healthy nerves can take a lot of stimulation. And so part of the goal with martial artists was to transcend pain, because they didn't deaden their nerves. They got their nerves so stimulated that they could just soak up stimulation. So if your body's sensitive, it's because your nerves are agitated. Inflamed nerves are sensitive. That doesn't make you a sensitive person. You're actually the most sensitive when you are completely tolerant in your nervous system, because you've stimulated it so much. You can feel the tiniest thing and the biggest thing you'll feel, but it's almost like it reverses. The greatest traumatic impacts will be lessened, and the most sensitive things will be heightened. When your nerves and your tissue is really, really healthy and conditioned. And it's sediment. I mean, my muscles are really squishy. You can see how I can squish them, but if I need them to, they're very hard, but they're very squishy. You're not seeing a lot of that pushback the same way in my tissue. When I squeeze it, it doesn't bounce back the same. And so I want everybody do a little check. In some parts of you be different. Wow, my legs. Whoa, there's more pressure in my legs than there is. Tune into you are a water vessel and see how pressurized you are right now. Because what happens is, as you start doing this, you'll notice the pressure goes out of your tissue. You'll get less pushback. You'll get more squish. And squish is a good thing because it means healthy. We have this delusion that our bodies are supposed to be muscular and cut and look all like hard and ripped. And that is the most superficial perspective of your body, just so you know, because muscles that are hard and cut they don't work as good. They're not as flexible. They don't have the elasticity. They ultimately aren't as strong. That's why the bodybuilder that you see who doesn't have good conditioned muscles, I could punch that guy in the shoulder super soft and he'd be like, ah, because his body's so full of lactic acid and crystallization and calcification. So he just looks really strong on the outside. That's why a lot of size is such an illusion, especially in martial arts. I mean, more muscle mass sometimes is honestly a handicap. But we've been so superficially distorted in all of this. So thank you. I hope I answered some of your questions.
Yeah, you definitely did.
I would be honored to have you in one of our programs because we need more.
I'm excited. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen because I'm completely called. So thank you very much.
Well, and that's why I tried to, like I said, I want to do one in July. At least we have the September one anchored. So it's just something and a lot of time mean, we have a lot of time till then as well. And so, yeah, we're going to be going through all the apprenticeship like enrollment things and trying to figure out, because we have 13 spots right now. So I'm putting that out as the vessel for, I feel we're going to have a very international, masterful group of amazing humans from all over that are going to be going off as beacons for this. And the universe backs what's supposed to be. So yeah,
Absolutely.
watch what happens. I'm excited. Some of the stories of how apprentices didn't think they would make it and ended up in one of the programs, they all become kind of part of the magical journey of taking this on to be a strama ambassador, if you will, a doula to help humanity towards freedom. The universe wants that. The universe wills that. So you have the universe behind any of you that are feeling to that call. So, sana maho.
Yep. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, let's see. Who else are we looking? Let me see. That's a good question. England, where we find a therapist in England? I know. Well, we have one. I believe she's still in Norway. Not 100% sure, but I definitely she's amazing. Liv Bronglin is just a warrior. I believe she's still practicing. I'm looking forward to speaking to her soon. Actually, she's one of the practitioners I haven't gotten to speak to yet. Let me see. I'm just checking questions. Okay, ovarian cancer. Got it. Let's touch base on that one. Scoliosis, yes. Okay, let's talk on that. And dialysis, right. Well, if you think about dialysis, when one needs support because one's organs aren't functioning properly, part of that is because an organ isn't functioning properly is a secondary, effect to the system going down ultimately on a neurological level, which means when we activate your nervous system, it's going to improve the entire system. So I want to say, whether it's for ovarian cancer or scoliosis, think about it. If there's one thing you could do that's naturally, without even, is it going to cure this? Is it going to fix it? Possibly. It has in the past. I've seen someone with scoliosis that had a 6-inch rod through the middle of their spine that had a giant hump on their back completely straighten out. I think we worked together for about 3 months to do that. And it was so powerful. My sister has scoliosis. So if you think about, whether it's scoliosis or some type of cancer or cysts um, or kidneys, weak kidneys that someone's having to go on dialysis, if you activated the nervous system and the electromagnetic battery pack system of the body, that is going to have an effect that is positive on your situation that's going to be significant. Now, if you continue to activate your nervous system, now I'm just talking activating it once. If you reset the whole system, activated the whole mainframe in the inner position, that is going to have naturally a significant impact on any condition that you have. Boom, done and done. Now, if you kept activating your nervous system by stimulating and activating yourself, and if you did a more accelerated regimen where, let's say, and by the way, friends, people that have conditions come to me, whether quadriplegic, paraplegic, and we get down to business. Sadly, people in wheelchairs or that are severely compromised tend to be the ones that just have the greatest ambition to, like, I don't accept this and I want to kick some ass. What can we do to change this? I try to, relay to everybody, y'all aren't far off from the wheelchair. None of us are. We just don't realize it yet. So kicking into gear of that ambition to go, I'm not happy where I'm at, I want to change this, is significant. Significant in and will only bring you good results. So for all my athletes out there, that's why I did so well with this work, is I brought the athlete mentality to transforming my body. And that's what I try to support, is for you to bring that aspect of that hungry athlete looking to train and be the best and rock it. You have to inspire yourself in that way. So So we do that. And that also happens as we do one side at a time, showing you how different each part of your body feels compared to how, oh, look at this. How's this feel? It feels like crap. Well, this was your normal until we activated this freedom, and let's keep that moving. So in that regard, there are people that will do their spring cleaning and like 4 core series every other week. Boom, boom, boom. They just come. I'd see them in the clinic. They would just boom. How many can we get in? Because they knew that we're stripping layers away of trauma. And the more that we do, that's been sedimented. Remember, think about it. You have all these sedimented layers of trauma. Once we get the armor off, now we have layers to get into. We didn't even have access to those until we pulled off that inflammation layer, that armored layer of trauma that's been collected. So the self-treatment stuff is amazing. In between, you can be just activating on yourself and doing it. And by the way, you're going to find areas that don't feel good. Keep working on it. Watch what happens over a couple of days. They'll change. They'll be less. They'll be easier. And the goal with that is that when you see a practitioner for series work or an actual intro session, you can get more done because you've been prepping yourself for it. So that's one of the big reasons we wanted to bring the self-treatment stuff in. Also. Okay, got it. Just checking something. So yes, cysts, tumors, we work on them. We go right to them. We stimulate them. We stimulate around them. We press in and anchor into them. We follow where the nerve goes. Where's that shooting off to? Oh, way over here. Part of it is we don't touch our wounds, our areas, because we're afraid to. We have fear. Can't do that. Gotta go and look at it and love it. I think I do this work because where other people would avoid their pain when I was a kid, I would just keep poking on that area. I would keep poking it. It was just intuitive. I just am supposed to keep poking, and if it hurt too much, I'd poke around it, and I would just keep stimulating until it would fix itself. Because I had my own instinctive awareness that that's all this body needed. Just needed to be stimulated, to be activated. So, all of these things will come up in your series, and they're things to address with your practitioner. The scoliosis, maybe it's ovarian cysts, maybe it's I'm about to go in dialysis, so I have a kidney thing. I want to activate my nerves and boost my immune system before I go, to take on this this process, And what's neat a lot of times is once we activate your nervous system, maybe your kidneys start functioning better. Maybe all of a sudden you get on dialysis and they're like, wow, your kidneys seem to be doing better. Were you doing something? I've seen so many cases of this, guys, where we do this work, the body improves, Western medicine goes, that doesn't make any sense. We're not really sure why this is doing this, but it's good. It's a good sign. I just don't, and this is where we have to start breaking ourselves from the enslavement of this system, because it's such a head game. It's like I said with my apprentice who literally was manipulated to believe she had diabetes. She's 22 now. From 10 years old, she's breaking 12 years of indoctrination. She's lived her whole life under the fear that if she didn't take this insulin shot, she would die. And now she's stopped taking the insulin. She's dropped her insulin levels down. She's not dying. Her system's not shutting down. She's been going through a process of withdrawal to being injecting insulin into herself for no reason for 12 years. So I'm just trying to show the gravity of deception that comes with this field. And part of it is a mind sabotage, telling you sick, you have this, you're this. And then we carry it around. It's the same thing with the STDs, guys. Okay. By the way, the whole AIDS test that everyone was afraid of all through my childhood and everything, that was the PCR test, right? The failed PCR test. Does everyone know for sure? You know how many afraid people were to get an HIV test? Can everyone sit with the fact that that is the PCR test for the CB? Yeah, nuts. So there's been such an indoctrination of fear because we're so undereducated about how our body works. That's it. We've believed the high priest class of medicine. So you have to break your own personal relationship with that in your own way, because you have to see, oh my gosh, I have that. Just like you probably have your own indoctrination to think that your urine is gross and a waste product. And once you learn that's a medicine and you can heal yourself of anything, Oh, kidney's not working. Awesome. Guess what? Your body's all information on how to rebalance and heal itself, and whatever's going on with your kidneys is going to be in that. When you drink it, it goes right in and starts fixing you. See, they had to really dumb us down on how awesome our tech was. Really, it would be like the most state of the art iPhone that they tried to like scrape all the edges of it and maybe fracture the front lens, and like they wanted you to just think it's like the most just devolved thing. They want you to think it's a flip phone, so to speak, but it's not. It's actually super tech. So all of us, whether it's about body shame, right? How about how many of you are conditioned to fragrances and smells, and you're alienated by your own body odor? You should look at that. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with us? What's the deal? Either you're toxic and you have an extra smell to you because you're really just smelling what toxicity is in yourself, or you're so sensitized to fragrances and chemicals that you're alienated to your own smell of being human. Whoa, good trick, huh? Good trick, Luciferians. And that's why we look at European people or the Westerners and think, oh, they're stinky or this and that. You're the screwed up ones. You guys think that the human body is supposed to smell like Old Spice or what? Some artificial lavender chemical synthetic? No. In fact, ladies, if your man isn't like, whoa, girl, you back from the gym right now? Don't you take that shower? No way. That's the scent. That's the pheromone. That's the essence. Oh, babe, I got to take a shower. I feel so gross. I'm so gross from the gym. No, look at these. Look how we talk about ourselves. You see? And it's supported by us being more chemically toxified and genetically dumbed down. So we have to start breaking all this, all the body shame stuff. We have to start seeing that we're magical, that we're these divine reflections of ourselves, these divine embodied creators. Or you could just be this gross, dumb human that's just evolved from a monkey. The deception is, I mean, they really had to layer it in. Like I said, because we're such a divine vessel, they really had to lay it deeply into us, and they did, and it's in our body too. Let's see. Oh, nice. Wow, awesome. Okay, let's see. What else we got here? Jason, looking for the best natural cure for congenital hernia. Yes, that's a tough one. I feel you on that one. I had a hernia surgery when I was a boy. Why did I really need one? Who even knows? Like, I've heard of a few young boys who have been forced into hernia surgeries. I was super young, and there was my mom even said, oh, they just suggested we do it or whatever. So yes, hernias are tough because we have to recondition that tissue. And depending where it is, like if you have an abdominal hernia, the inguinal just going to be right along. Yeah, that's something that you're going to see the most transformative results from getting series work done and consistently working on that over time. Some things, whether they're, tears or they're extra buildups. So both, damaged tissue that's torn or built up calcified tissue, there is no quick fix, guys. You have to break down that calcification that built up. It's kind of like if you get an excess of, remember, plaque started as tartar. Remember, the tartar was soft. You could just get it off, right? Okay, right? But if you didn't take care of that and it turns to plaque, that's a tougher thing. That's got to be scraped off, right? So, but remember, plaque only is there because you didn't take care of that. And so it calcified, hardened. So it's the same in our tissue. As above, so below. As above, so below in your body. Way more layers. So that calcification has to be scraped off. It's a tough one. I remember I told you I broke my heel and healed it in 1 month. I'm still doing general maintenance on this foot. I don't know if the bones healed off. It put an extra calcification on the padding on my foot. So I am still currently working out that wave of damage and trauma, despite the structural healing, and I got my stride back, and there's nothing. I'm now still doing recalibration adjustments on the system itself. And folks, I got 4 kids, 3 kids, and a baby, Han Solo style. I could have been working way more on this foot and heel over the last year. So, and I take full accountability, you know, whether it be just not even feeling like I have the energy to work on myself after getting everybody to better. I still chose not to work on it as much as I could have. Wow. Okay. That was like a strange.
So sorry about that. Somebody came in. I don't know why these. Yeah, sorry. They're out now.
Oh, really? They threw in that sound?
Yeah,
Nice.
they literally just came in to do that and then left.
Wow. Well, blessings and prayers to that person. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, guys. You got to find the beauty in the extreme absurdity and division that's coming with the light and the dark, with those that choose to go higher in frequency and consciousness, and those that are too anchored and snared into a lot of the matrixial, really egoic narcissism, the Oedipus virus. It's really what it is. It's the mind virus, you know. It's been put in place long ago, and unfortunately that includes friends and family sometimes, because everything is individually based. This is going to be the toughest thing about the road ahead, is how many of us are going to have to make peace with the fact that we're only in charge of what we choose to do. We can't save other people, we can't help other people, and some of those people might even be your family, your dearest friends, possibly a partner. Ooh, like I said, the time of harvest is just what it is. The wheat's the wheat, the weeds are the weeds. They harvest the weeds first before they harvest the grain.
Hey, Micah. So to kind of close this up for today, we've got some people now asking how they can become a part of the 13 apprentices for September, and what's the best way to join? What's the best way to sign up for the apprenticeship program?
So definitely go to our page and enroll for the enrollment. And I believe it lets you write something, a little kind of essay or something, and enroll. And then those are all getting logged for us. And for those that want to like confirm or secure the September program, it's really down to our follow-up with you, and then checking in with you, going through kind of like a practitioner interview, if you will, where we drop in, and then your deposit for the program secures your spots, basically where it's at, the first 13. And then we're going to try to possibly, as we fill up, maybe we'll be able to get a couple extra extensions. This is a huge Balinese Shangri-La that is like a giant Balinese temple with multiple lodgings, with these cool, almost like a giant Balinese tree temple. I mean, the space is so magical, you guys. It's been made of Balinese wood that was all shipped from Bali, and the couple that built it actually built a village in Bali for the people. They're so magical. It is the most majestic and magical place, and they've wanted me to do a program there, as NMRT has helped both of them, as they're older now, for years. And it's they're kind of the surrogate grandparents to my kids. So it's just such a magic tribal sacred space with a huge Incan Mayan fire pit, and oh, it's so cool. So yeah, so that's what happens. Sign up, and then we'll go through our prerequisite. We're going to go through our interviews, and then you guys, when you sign up and ink your deposit, you just have to find practitioners on the mainland, and I'm putting a bunch out for you, to get your spring cleaning. And then I will be either coming to the mainland at some point before the program, to different places where we can connect to do your core work. And when we do your core series, you'll get to connect with me. We'll take you through a beautiful templating that will have you so ready for the programs in July and September. And yeah, and that's how we flow from there. And then I believe I got to look back at all of our logistics stuff. I think you just have to get the remainder of your program in, the remaining deposit in. I think we give you up to even like a week before we even start the program, to try to make it work. And there is some financial aid stuff. Just talk to our office about it. And yeah, that's the biggest thing, is that we have a lot to prepare for July and September, which includes the food. It's you know, it doesn't include your plane ticket, but it includes everything: lodging, food, your manual, all the equipments, everything like that is all included. We have an ecstatic dance at the end of the program. It's super amazing. So it's pretty much everything included outside of your ticket. And so we have a lot to prep for in that regard, and a lot goes into getting these programs styled, which is why it takes a lot. And my team who's helped me before knows it, and I'm super blessed. We're cultivating a new magical team, and there's already, like I said, if you're interested outside of the programs, I do work with practitioners out here. We're doing a smaller program probably in the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to start a program on island here. I have 2 practitioners in it. I'm open to do at least 5 or 6 if people feel called. And we just have to work on what that would look like. It will not be the full immersion retreat, which is super magical. It will be, I think, 9, maybe 10 days, because we have a smaller group. And it will still be all tribe, including food and everything like that. We'll have to work out if we need to establish lodgings for you guys. Because like I said, I'm trying to do as much as I can to get people trained as soon as possible, to share this work and bring it to the world. So I'm also working on the 13 video, and we are working on to announce the first dates for our 3-day self-treatment thing, where you can learn how to do it on yourself. You learn principles and techniques, and then how to actually do the full routine on yourself, which is, like I said, invaluable. So sign up on the apprenticeship enrollment from the education page. You'll see the program. You'll see what is in the level 1, the level 2, and eventually level 3. Level 2 is the core series, learning how to do that. And level 3 is advanced clinical applications, which is in the 3rd level training, where we bring in people with Parkinson's or MS or stroke patients, and our advanced practitioners learn how to do specialized work with neurological disorders, which is very, very important. So, you know, the level 2 and level 3, I'm so excited eventually for that. Right now, we're just focused on getting some level 1 and MRT practitioners out in the world. So I truly, yeah, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. And I hope that this has activated and amplified the call for release, either to become a vessel and ambassador for this work, or to just become your own self practitioner and learn that you actually can stimulate and activate your body and heal thyself. Was there any other question, details that I should get to?
I just want to clarify that people go to your website, matrixbodymechanics.com, and click on the tab Education and scroll to the very bottom of that page to enroll and send us your information.
Enrollment, and all of our enrollees are getting logged, and I'm going to connect with you all and touch base, and we'll go through our kind of pre-introduction or introduction interview. And then from there, the first 13 that are ready to anchor in are our first 13. And once we get our 13, I'm going to try to see if we have more, just so you guys know. I'll try to get a couple extra spots set for that. That is the first one we can that we are anchoring in. And like I said, I should know in the next probably week for the July program to confirm dates. We're just trying to secure space here because I won't be able to use the same temple space. It's actually, I would have used it earlier, guys. The first available it's opening back up is in the beginning of September. So so that's why I'm now looking for other spaces on the island that we can do possibly a June or July program, or even sooner, maybe a May program. I'm ready. I'm ready to answer the call with you all, truly. And that's why we're diligently trying to find the best way to be able to manifest this the most efficiently. And I think that will include me going most likely to the mainland, like I said, possibly maybe Austin or possibly Mexico. We've been talking about Syncretism Society as well to do a 3-day program. It's really going to be where everyone is actually going to commit to me doing the program, meaning when we get the first 20 people signed up for the self-treatment program that's 3 days, whether it's in Austin, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's in Michigan, then that's the first place I'm going to go, because you've put your energy into committing to this thing. And like I said, part of that is putting the energy into these programs is what helps me, because I got 4 kids, yo. I got a lot to tend to if I'm going to leave this sacred land and go facilitate these sciences, there are things that I have to cover, including both of my baby mamas and their kids, and making sure that they're grounded and dialed, and my animals, many creatures here, and my tribe and homestead and everything. That so all that stuff, that's the tough one, is has to be anchored in that way, and on top of braving the travel and all of that goodness. So I'm open. If your community wants us to come there for a public program, um, answer us. And when we bring up our, like, put your group together. If you can show us like 10 actual people or 20 people that are committed that want to do this, we can actually move forward and start anchoring that, take the deposits, get it dialed, find our space. And also, if you know spaces and places where it would be good for us to be able to do a self-treatment exploration, where everyone's got their little blankets, yoga mat, and pillow, and we're sitting on the floor going through this for 4 to 5 hours every day, and then you get to practice on each other, and it's such a beautiful way for community bonding, and it's so necessary coming out of this shutdown and all of this alienated mind jargon, fear mongering that we've been in about cooties and viruses and touch and all of it. So we all have to do our part to actively re-engage back into our humanity. So beautiful. I hope that is that good. Y'all, yeah, blessings. I'm looking at everybody in here, trying to keep track on the chat room as we're going and flowing. But I just want to say I appreciate each and every one of you. And we will do more of these. I love these. I love answering questions, and I love, if you guys want to guide where we go and what we talk about, as there is so much to get into. We have a syncretism class. I'm really excited for an intro to neutrino solar imprintation. Basically, all of the things that human design profiles in their system. I hesitated to even use that word because the system itself has been very political and has some politic elements in it. And I was always trained by people that got out of that, were purely about the science of it. So we're excited to do that tomorrow. That's on the Syncretism Live. And then my show is always every Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Matrix Body Mechanics MBM live show on Rumble. And we can't really stream it on YouTube because they started banning our shows because of the stuff we talked about. And they made it so we couldn't do a live stream over 15 minutes, which it looks like we actually transcended. So yeah, still going to keep it on Rumble for the show, just because our platform on YouTube is valuable and you all are valuable, and we don't want to jeopardize that. So that's why Rumble is a good platform for us to do the show on, where we can cover a lot more of the documents and information, statistics, data, and reality checks that unfortunately get censored on YouTube. So with that, I appreciate each and every one of you so much, truly. And thank you for being a part of this release. My family thanks you. It's been a lot we've all had to go through to get this film out to the world for you all, and even more why we need to keep the momentum going to bring the release, more than just getting that placebo effect of the film, to bring it, to bring the power to you, to empower you to see you can create great change. On that, aloha, Satnam. I think we're good. Yeah, Marie, good?
Yeah, we're great. Would you like me to end with the two frogs?
Yes, because you know what? Songs are mantras, and this is a message of hope and not losing hope, and feeling a lot of times like your condition, your health is like being those two frogs in the pail of milk trying to get out. It's too slippery. You try and try and try, and it seems like so much work to get anywhere. And I know that can feel that way sometimes when our systems get really hit with great challenges. But I promise you that being the big frog is not the answer. You want to be the little frog who keeps going, and he turns that milk to butter, and he gains his freedom again. All of us, this is all of this is part of a magical lesson for us. I know we get pulled into the avatar character and the theatrics of this illusion, but I promise you, as soon as you're out of this place, you got to look through a whole highlight reel of all the wretched and disconnected and delusion stuff in your ego that you did, but you get to watch the whole highlight reel from the most profound state of being loved that you totally forgot and are instantly flushed back with. So what an interesting thing, how to watch your whole highlight reel of your ego and disconnect and and all the while being so loved and remembering how all of this was, none of this was real. It's all a big theatrics. It's all love. It's all magic. It's all love. So with that, yes, Micah Sky, Matrix Body Mechanics Live, signing off. Satnam, friends. Enjoy this track. And remember, which frog are you? Huh? Be the little frog. Be the little frog. Two frogs in trouble. That's the name of the tale, yeah. Big frog snoozed near the pond as the sun warmed the large hump of his back. What a great day for doing nothing, he thought to himself. Blip, 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 little frog took off for the pond, and Big Frog's eyes were wide open now. Plop, plop, ploppity plop, he followed little frog, and together they crossed the pond to the barnyard, playing leapfrog and hide and seek along the way. They were having so much fun, they forgot that it was milking day. Plop, plop, they jumped straight into a pail of fresh milk. The sides were slippery and the frogs couldn't get out, help, help. At least that's what Big Frog yelled. Hoping somehow to escape, the two frogs swam around in the milk pail. They swam for hours. Big Frog began to swim slower and slower. Finally he groaned, why should I keep on trying? We will just die in this pail. I'm just so tired, I can't swim any longer. Keep on, cheered the little frog as he splashed around the pail. You must have the courage or you're gonna drown, don't give up. And they went all together for a while. Soon Big Frog stopped swimming. Little friend, it's no use, I can't get out, I'm gonna quit. I'm going to quit trying. So we did. Now Little Frog was all alone. He said to himself, well, if I give up, I'll be dead, so I'm gonna keep swimming. 2 more hours passed. Little Frog's legs could hardly move. I can't swim another stroke, he moaned. Then he thought about what happened to his homie Big Frog. With every speck of strength in him, Little Frog cried out, even if I die trying, I won't give up. Where there is life, there is hope. Bursting with courage, Little Frog felt a tingle and new life come into his legs. He raced around the milk pail, splash, splash, splash for a long time. That is the only sound he heard. But he began to hear a new sound. Was his reality being blurred? Glob, 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 the white waves had turned to the thickest cream. Now it was even harder for him to swim, but Little Frog kept on with all his might, full steam. All of a sudden, he felt something under him. He looked down and saw his feet were resting on a small hill. Little Frog swimming had turned the milk to butter. With a great leap of joy, Little Frog jumped out of the pail. To freedom, to freedom. That night, he hopped happily through the tall grass. Little Frog smiled up at the moon and thought to himself, now I know it's true. There is always hope. From now on, I'll never give up. Never ever give up. And little frog never did. That's the tale of two frogs in trouble. That's the end of the fable. Now I hope that you're able to tell me, what kind of frog are you?